What is the deal with luggage?
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, May 16th, 2019. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination, episode 1138.
This is No Agenda.
Learning more millennial lingo and broadcasting live from the frontier of Austin, Tejas, capital of the Drone Star State. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where in the middle of May, it's raining. It's raining. I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
I don't know why I'm supposed to feel shocked or bad or too. It's just raining.
It's the middle of May. It's supposed to be. This is our summer. This means the whole summer is going to be screwed up.
Yeah, it's been beautiful here for May. Unbelievably beautiful with rain and low temperatures. It's been in the 80s. It's fantastic for us.
Yeah, it's in the 50s here.
No, that's not. Oh, that's no good.
Yeah, it's 56 out.
So everybody is coming in for the big show on Sunday.
Yeah, apparently your pal there is invited the whole country.
It's Mark Hall, Sir Mark Hall, tweeting like, "Hey y'all, come on and welcome to Texas. If you're coming to the shindig." I don't think he actually invited anybody.
The way I read the tweet, he did.
Yeah, he
backed off on it, the second tweet, but the first tweet was
of course. And when you get a lot of people visiting, and of course every night everyone's hanging out on the deck, and it's very tiring for your podcaster to keep up with everything. But I've learned a lot of millennials here, and you know how much we love talking to them.
Oh yeah, they're the best.
Some of them, it just blows my mind. Some of them are actually working for the Talking Tube services, of which there are a couple. There's Apple Siri, there's the Google Assistant, and Amazon's Alexa. And I've had a look in the system. I'm allowed to see how it works, what comes in. Whatever you say to your Talking Tube, it's not safe. There's an army of millennials laughing at you for everything you say. So one of the jobs is to make sure that Google Assistant is giving the people what they want and what they requested. And it appears to be reasonably random which voice recordings are chosen for review. Although, when there's European Parliament elections, when there's a lot of news about that, it seems that those types of queries come in to be checked. And, again, this is not although they are supposed to check for content. If something is, can't pass the muster, then it has to be reported. But a lot of it is training the artificial intelligence.
Skim that over. What do you mean?
You mean by what?
If you can't pass the muster, it must be reported. What does that mean?
That means if it's something they feel is dangerous or brings harm, I don't know the exact criteria, but if something sounds off, then no matter what the off is, they report it. That then goes to an elevated team. What these kids are doing, I'll just call them kids, they're actually training the algo. They're training the machine learning, which by definition is wrong if they're training it. But the machine learning by, there's a form and you have to say, okay, this was the intended request and this is what the result was, because that they also have that information. And then they can say, either it did it or it didn't do it or it was off. But here's the thing. Most of the recordings are people yelling at Google for not getting what they wanted. Just going off and yelling at Google. And a large amount of seemingly old men looking for nasty porn, which apparently, interracial porn.
Show me some nasty porn. You're not nasty enough anymore.
I can't even repeat the things that are being requested. Yeah.
God.
That's what the technology is being used for, Google.
Yeah. Fantastic. This is what all the work that's gone into this. All the effort to save and help mankind.
Yes.
And this is what it ends up.
Find porn.
Find more porn.
And just to help people understand.
Wait a minute. These guys can't find their own. They can't find their own damn porn.
Well,
it's that hard.
Well, I think the Google Assistant is being used the way it was intended. No longer input on your phone through the screen. You just press the button and say, hey, find me some porn. Like open the pod bay doors, Hal, only different.
Well, it's kind of the same if you think about it.
Yes. So I learned that. I learned a new term, a new millennial term.
Oh, hold on a second before you go on. This is interesting.
You're still stuck.
Can't just gloss things over.
Well, I'll have a longer report.
I want to hear. I got questions now.
Okay, all right, go.
So, you say that these kids are working for the various operations. When they're having their confab there on the deck? Do they exchange notes? Do they all work the same? Does Siri have a bunch of kids listening in?
Yes.
Does the
Amazon
Google Assistant? What's the other one? Amazon. Is anyone working for Amazon?
Yeah. These are independent companies that contract out. And so but they do pretty well. They do 15 euros an hour for this.
It's minimum wage.
No, 10.
Well, minimum wage in San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's not being done in San Francisco. But, they need one in every different country.
I think that's a comment on society right there.
Yeah.
The cheap bastards are making who knows how many billions of dollars in profits.
Yes.
Can't pay $15 an hour for people to eavesdrop and probably get sickened by a lot of this.
Yeah.
That would make me nauseous.
Well, and one of the discussions was the millennial set are convinced that it will not be longer than this year before a prominent YouTuber commits suicide.
On YouTube?
Maybe wouldn't that be the best? No. But just it is the cancel culture, the deplatforming.
Well, Olivia Jade is up for auctions on this one.
Yeah, I mean, the kids are freaking out, and they're not prepared for this type of incredible letdown and disappointment so early in their professional lives when they find out that, guess what? Internet money ain't just free all the time. You can just get deplatformed. It's that simple. It's that simple.
Well, that's pathetic.
But I do want to reiterate something, because the conversation that you see online and on podcasts and everywhere is about political speech being stifled. The left wants to shut down the right. And I just want to remind everybody that the president, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, none of these people are important in this game. Not a single one of them. The only thing that matters is the almighty God, the advertiser. That's the reason for the deplatforming. It's only because advertisers will say, listen, I don't want to have anything to do with any conspiracy theorists, any crazy shit. They're protecting their own interests. If you really, truly believe that they're being suppressed, no.
Yes, this needs to be emphasized more.
The advertisers don't want that message near their product. It's the advertisers. And it's so simple. If you really want to make this a fairer platform, everybody just needs to turn it off. Don't use it. Go after the advertisers. Go after the advertisers right now, like the Sleeping Giants and the Media Matters. Say, hey, we want free speech, or we're going to boycott you. But no.
The advertisers are pretty easy to spot. We should come up with a no agenda list
of the advertisers on Twitter.
Or the advertisers who should be boycotted because they stifle free speech. They're anti-American.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I like that. Anti-American.
Yeah.
Unpatriotic. Unpatriotic. It hurts even more.
Totally.
Yeah.
They should want more free speech, not less. We don't want we don't want that sort of thing associated with our brand. That's all there is to it. It's not a big deal. You wouldn't either.
No. Exactly. And that's what everyone forgets. And so, of course, kids who are popular and you become popular, certainly online, with at least some fire or controversy or some position. You never get really popular just for being cool. So it's people. It's true. It's true.
It's true.
It's true.
It's true.
But my favorite story, because everyone's in Airbnbs, coming from all except for Christina and her girlfriend, they're staying with us. So the one of Tina's sisters and her husband and their son, they have an Airbnb. But her other sister with her sons, they had a different Airbnb. But their Airbnb wasn't available yet for check-in, so everyone just kind of piled into theirs, just to throw the bags down, and then they left after 20 minutes to go hang out in the city. And so sister number one gets a message from Airbnb. Well, we see that that you have many more people in the Airbnb than you contracted for. So click here to confirm that that you now have 7 people in this Airbnb with the increased price, or you have to get out. And what's going on here is they have a Ring doorbell. So the minute you check in, they're looking at you. God knows if they have anything on the inside.
Gaffer's tape.
That's what freaked me out.
Gaffer's tape.
Gaffer's tape, yeah. But it's just, to me, it says more about where we're at right now with this surveillance state. And we're doing it to ourselves, and we're jumping to conclusions. If the lady just called and said, hey, I see you had like 7 people instead of 4 or whatever they had agreed to. And he could have said, no, they're just here for a couple minutes and they'll leave. No. Immediately goes through Airbnb. The Airbnb Nazis coming down on you. You have 7 people. So, and is it just the Ring doorbell that they're using to spy on? I can almost guarantee you not. And this is all part of the technological issue. All Airbnb, or not all, but most Airbnbs now no longer have a key and a lock. They have one of those code locks that you can operate over the internet remotely. And so they give you a code, and then when the next person checks in, they give you a new code. But what invariably happens, I'm sure during South by Southwest, etc., is people hand out the code to everybody, and they're all crashing and partying in the same Airbnb. All this technology is not helping. It's only making people miserable.
Which takes us to our first clip.
Well, what you got?
Well, since you brought up the fact that you think somebody's going to commit suicide, a superstar YouTuber is making over $1 million a year, perhaps, gets deplatformed, even though he is like 16 or 18 or even 19. Let's catch up with the bullshit college scandal and where it's going, because I have a commentary that I wanted to make.
Yeah, I've been following the updates.
Oscar nominee Felicity Huffman facing cameras in a real-life drama that could land the actress in prison. When addressing the judge today, Huffman's voice began to quiver, fighting back tears. She stressed her daughter didn't know about her actions. Trying to regain her composure, Huffman answered, "Yes, Your Honor," when asked, "Are you guilty of the charge?"
This was absolutely the move that she had to make. She had to plead guilty, accept responsibility, and cooperate with prosecutors to get the lowest possible sentence.
After agreeing to plead guilty to conspiracy to commit mail fraud, prosecutors recommended the Desperate Housewives star pay a $20,000 fine and spend 4 months in prison. It comes as fellow actress Lori Loughlin moves closer to trial, like some other parents rejecting a plea deal. She and her fashion designer husband are taking a big gamble as they face a maximum of 40 years in prison.
Lori Loughlin is risking a substantial prison sentence by going to trial instead of pleading guilty. She may even end up pointing the finger at her husband, who was involved in more of the communications and more of the emails than she was.
Oh, he was, but he wasn't implicated at all, was he?
No, it's the Felicity's husband that wasn't implicated.
I'm sorry.
Massimo was.
Yes, Massimo. Yes, the fashion designer.
I was just wearing a Massimo sweater the other day. I was thinking of him.
I'm sure you were, with your Crocs, no doubt.
A couple of things here that need to be addressed, and this is out of control. There's no way that one person gets
40 years,
and 4 months in jail, and the other one gets 40 years. This sort of threat, this is the problem with the justice system as it now exists. It's a sham. They don't want anyone going to trial. And it said, in fact, even in the report, Elma Gary says this is the decision she had to make. She had to plead guilty. I'm not buying that these people necessarily. I mean, they go to a counselor. There's a bunch of these people, and they're going to help your kid get into school. This guy had a little other scheme, and I believe a lot of people were just stupid, and many of them not educated at all and never went to college themselves. And they were suckered into paying huge amounts of money, thinking maybe that was the way to do it because they were – I hate to say it, they don't seem malicious. They were just dumb. And so the system now is just beating the crap out of them. For one thing, nobody should go to jail over this. I've decided that's bull crap. This was a nonsense crime.
How about – okay, hold on a second. What about the admissions boards, the people on the inside? Like, I know that the basketball coach at UT is in jail, I think, already.
I don't know about that.
And why is that? Why do we hear nothing about the admission side of this scandal? Why do we not hear about the people who actually let these kids in?
Well, I would be more inclined to see them do a little time.
Yeah.
But in the thing is overblown. So some kids, oh my God, the poor kid that worked his butt off to get into Harvard, he didn't get in because somebody bought their way in, or he was at Harvard, I guess it was Yale. Got in because he was a crew member or whatever. He's on the rowing team. It's all bullcrap. I know a lot of people that get into Harvard just because, and I know
alumni kids, they get in first. They're the first ones to be appropriated. Kids. Yes.
Some schools don't allow it. I told a story to you off the air about one of our employees that was at Mevio who is
go ahead, tell the story.
A pretty model, but she got it. She waltzed into Cal because she's Mexican. She says.
She says, "I'm Mexican."
She is
boom,
Mexican,
in.
apparently, but she doesn't look it and she doesn't act it, and she was part of, and she just waltzes in.
Yeah.
So the whole system is a scam to begin with.
Well, John, don't you think that's exactly the reason why it's only the celebrities being played up and these huge to me, it's all distraction from the true problem. One, college is too expensive. Two, it's a scam on how you get in the first place, with alumni at the top of the list.
The whole thing is a scam, and then to overblow these celebrities and threaten them with 40 years in prison because she didn't. In fact, I'm sure that woman is convinced that she did nothing wrong because she went through a system that was there. Everybody knew about this guy. Okay, if that's what you want me to do, I'll do that. Or Photoshop a picture. Sure, I can do that. Is that the way everyone does it? Yeah, everybody does it. It's ridiculous that the system has beaten these people down so much. I mean, it was fun at first. I agree. Oh, look at these idiots. But now it's out of control, and it's unfair, and it's ridiculous, and these prosecutors should be ashamed of themselves.
And who knows what other forces are working behind the scenes. There's every one of these famous people has all kinds of commercial dealings. We don't even know is Hollywood somehow involved? Do they have any say? Is there any PR moves being made to focus on one versus the other based upon future projects or things on the shelf? No, in fact, the reporting is piss poor.
Well, anyway, this has to end, and these people should be just. And the way I see it, because of this, if you have to do something because of mail fraud, which was beyond me, okay, let's dream up some more bogus charges. That's not what they did. But they sent a resume in through the mail that was bogus. Oh, mail fraud. That's bullcrap. Now, give them a big, healthy – if you can afford $1 million to get your kid to school, you can afford more than a $20,000 fine. Give them a $50,000 or $100,000 fine and slap them on the wrist and tell them to get the hell out. This is bull crap in the highest order.
Yeah, but everybody wants to see someone go to jail that we all know. Come on. You can't ruin the fun.
Yeah, well, I'm sick of it. I'll keep following this, too. This is there's inexcusable. The prosecutors, we have real crime. People are getting hit in the head.
Yeah, there's that.
There's muggies. Every window in San Francisco is being broken because nobody cares. But
no, it's because it's under $1,000. It's under $1,000 in damages. No one has to care.
Yeah, you don't have to care.
Well, but isn't this the celebrity culture that we're in? This is not unexpected to me, and I totally expect someone to go to jail.
I was all in on it. I liked the idea; it was fun, but now it's gone too far.
Okay, all right. I still want to see a perp walk, a good one.
They did the perp walk already.
They weren't good. No one was shackled. Were they shackled?
Well, let's do it again.
Yeah, do over on the perp walk.
Put a bag over her head.
Well, another PR job, which was just fantastic to read in the New York Times, regarding 5G. I'm sure you saw this this article.
I have a clip of a 5G guy going on and on. I want to talk about. I don't have that clip as for the next show, which will be next Thursday. But
well, let me read the just the pertinent bit.
Yeah,
from
read that. I read it. It was a. I don't wonder who it was written for. It's a puff piece.
Well, first of all, the headline is, "Your 5G phone won't hurt you, but Russia wants you to think otherwise."
Yeah, with the RT and all the rest.
Well, so what the article says,
this was the worst article ever,
is that apparently the Russians are behind the negative information about 5G. Analysts see RT's attack.
Hey, where's my check?
And by the way, this RT 5G piece they're referring to is the piece that we played on the show weeks ago. Remember the millennial girl? I guess you don't remember.
No, not really.
Let me see.
Play it again.
Don't know if I have a different clip. Let me see if I can find this. It was no, I can't bring it up right at this very moment. But it was, an okay report. But anyway, the New York Times says analysts seek RT's attack on 5G as geopolitically bold. It targets a new world of interconnected futuristic technologies that would reach into consumers' homes, aid national security, and spark innovative industries. Yes, it's economic warfare. What? Like what?
Innovative industries. I keep hearing this. What?
Already, I'm going to read it to you. Already, medical firms are linking up devices wirelessly to create new kinds of health treatments. Yeah, you can do a mammogram via remote. Just stand in front of that 5G antenna. Good to go.
Put no more piece of film behind you.
No more squeezing. No more pinching. Just stand in front of your router, and you're good to go. Yeah, it's economic warfare. Ryan Fox, Chief Operating Officer of New Knowledge. Hello, New Knowledge. New Knowledge. You remember those guys, don't you?
No.
Yeah, they're the ones that did the congressional report explaining exactly how the Russian trolls influenced the election, and then subsequently they were caught using the same techniques in the Alabama special election. Those guys. Now,
those guys.
Good. It's no problem to go ahead and promote them and everything they're talking about. Anyway. RT struck back, which I think is pretty interesting, and they are going to retaliate in this clip against this New York Times report.
Conflict of interest might be an understatement for the New York Times and its relationship with the telecom giant Verizon. The Times does advertisements for Verizon. Take a look at this one, paid for and posted by Verizon, but that's just the tip of the iceberg.
This January, with Verizon's support, we're launching a new journalism 5G lab at the Times. Now, this lab's going to be based in our main newsroom, and it'll work very closely with Times journalists in New York City, across America, and around the world. It'll partner with Verizon's Open Innovation Group and get early access to 5G technology and equipment.
Doreen Tobin has been on the New York Times board of directors since 2004. Until 2009, she was Verizon's vice president and chief financial officer. After her retirement from Verizon, Tobin was given $3.5 million and then signed a year-long consulting contract that paid her a whopping $125,000 per month. As for the article's experts on 5G, Ryan Fox spent 15 years at the National Security Agency and was a computer analyst in the U.S. Army. Now he's an executive at the cyber intelligence firm New Knowledge, the very same firm that ran what its own internal report called an elaborate false flag operation in the 2017 Alabama special Senate race. And then there's Molly McHugh, a neoconservative think tanker and registered foreign agent who once wrote that fighting a new Cold War would be in America's interest. So whose interest does this article serve? The American public or corporate shareholders?
No, this is something.
Good work.
I thought it was an outstanding piece. Yeah, of course, it's really a native ad. It's them defending their new newsroom in conjunction with Verizon. You know, a call went out. I would like to
see the New York Times load up their newsroom with 5G transmitters.
The end of the paper.
That'd be to take care of the problem.
Wow, man, those New York Times articles looking pretty crusty, a little fried around the edges. What's going on with that? But it's despicable. I believe this. I think they literally
totally despicable. The New York Times should be ashamed of itself, but it's already lost. It's a lost cause. I'm surprised. I'm going to be surprised if it lasts out. I mean, it's horrible, that paper. It's just gone down the tubes.
No, but they seem to be doing okay on digital subscriptions, so they claim.
Well, they got a big overhead. I don't know how they're doing it.
You know, I'm looking at
the action going on there.
I'm looking at this New York Times article again, and they do disclaim it. Wireless high-speed communications could transform the news industry. Wait! This is great. Ow. This is the part they got paid for. Well, hold on. One paragraph. Wireless high-speed communication could transform the news industry, sports, shopping, entertainment, transportation, healthcare, sexual relations. Oh, I made that up. City management, and many levels of government. In January, the Times announced a joint venture with Verizon to build a 5G journalism lab. And then they
put the transmitters inside the newsroom. Do it.
RT's assaults on 5G technology are rising in number and stridency as the American wireless industry begins to erect 5G systems. In March, Verizon said its service will soon reach 30 cities. This is a native ad article. A protectionary native ad. They don't say anything about T-Mobile or AT&T with their phony 5GE, whatever it is. They don't say anything about that. No, only about Verizon.
Yeah.
That's
horrible. The paper's out of control.
That really is bad.
So I'm listening. I have some clips I want to play. I don't have them with me. I'm going to bring them in the next show that we do.
Oh, this is a tease.
But the one thing they keep promoting, and they keep promoting this to an extreme, and I'm finally sick of listening to it. And I want somebody, I need to get some, I can say what I think I know, and I think, but I'm going to have to get a superstar network guy, a guy who really is up there, not not me, and do an interview with him. This low latency thing is bullshit.
Oh, really?
Well, give me a break. They say it's 1 millisecond latency is on 5G. You get 1 millisecond latency.
Well,
so what?
I was going to say that's meaningless. I mean, latency to what? I mean, from the phone to the router,
from the pole to the phone.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah.
I was looking at my latency on my just fooling around, looking at latencies on my 1 gigabit line.
Between where and where?
So I'm getting, if I go on to Ookla or any of the
speedtest.net,
there's a bunch of them, but Ookla's nice because it has.
That's not a real test. That's not.
It's a test it's a good test for latency. And so I ran the test because it matches everybody else's latency. There's also just a latency test. So my latency, talking from here on the gigabit line straight to the Sonic server in Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
Is
about 5 milliseconds.
Between 2 and 4 milliseconds.
Yeah.
That's good. The latency from here to Austin, Texas, 20.
Right.
Sometimes 30.
Yeah. It's got
the latency from here to Manchester, UK, 55.
Right.
So what is this low latency got to do with anything?
Well, look, what they're talking about here is really building a secondary internet that is completely managed and chock full of goodies for the telecom company and for governments and etc. So, when you have a 1 millisecond latency, they're going to have the distance learning or the telemedicine. It'll all be inside this new network. It's not really intended. I mean, they're just trying to sell it to people by saying something incredibly stupid, such as, you can download a whole movie in 5 seconds. Well, the last time I downloaded a movie was in 1998. It's all streaming now. You don't have to download anything, and no one cares how long it takes as long as it starts playing almost right away. And just to explain to everyone what my and I think the show's issue is with 5G is they're claiming to have incredible bandwidth, and that's not necessarily so that's explained to simpletons as, oh, you can download a movie in 5 seconds. But what it means is you can really put a lot of data through in the same amount of time. And you can compare it to AM radio and FM radio. AM radio reaches much further, certainly at night. It bounces around, but the quality is shit because it's a very thin bandwidth, and that's just the physics of that's just physics. So if you want further reach, your quality will go down. I'm just generalizing. FM sounds much higher quality, but in order to get all of that beautiful sounding information in, it has to go on a different frequency, which just can't penetrate and can't go as far. So when you have 4G, it'll go through walls and through all kinds of things, and you get a decent amount of bandwidth, and in some countries very decent. But to really make that jump to a gigabit, you have to have a much higher frequency, and because those higher frequencies can stuff all this information into its pipe, its power has to be a multiple times stronger in order to get through your hand from your phone. That's even where they're already going to show you how to hold your phone properly so you don't block the antenna with, I don't know, something inconvenient like your head. And they're going to be upping this power, and it could be 60 watts from the pole. Now, when you have a pole right outside your window, you get into all kinds of unknowns. And this is one of the reasons why Louisiana Department of Health is saying, hold on, we're going to study this. Study it before we roll it out. Austin, of course, stupid, on board, rolling it out, little boxes everywhere. So when you start to do this without thinking properly about, or without really testing in real world scenarios with humans, there's going to be tons of issues. Now, that said, 5G itself has nothing to do with this. 5G is being rolled out in Asia on pretty much the same frequencies as 4G. I don't know if that's just PR, because again, you can't really get that far with a higher frequency. So, I mean, it's a little baffling to me. We seem to be one of the few countries that are really going to go in the high, 30 gigahertz range. I don't see Asia doing this. They're still staying in the 3 to 5 gigahertz range, which is arguably not harmful.
Actually, 2.6 in China.
Yeah. Well, so is that really 5G? I mean, you can't.
Once they call it 5G, it's 5G.
Yeah, but you can't push the same amount of data through that frequency. You just can't.
Where's the spec?
Yeah. If there was one, we could tell you all about it. That's another problem. The spec is kind of,
Where's the spec? Show me the spec.
Yeah. So that's not going to be too much of a problem. But then I don't think it'll deliver. It can't deliver
multiple channels over the same, free at the 2.6.
That's part of the spec. That's part of it. It's like a wave division. I guess parts of it is that. But it's just unknown. And, there's lots of examples of 4G, even 3G making people very sick. Wi-Fi. People with Wi-Fi issues who just cannot stand it.
Yeah, Wi-Fi may actually be the real issue. I've changed my attitude about it. I've kind of cut back on Wi-Fi, and I'm using, believe it or not, and it works just fine,
dial-up,
home power line networking in the house.
Really?
It's at 2 gigabits per second. You think that's fast enough?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot faster than Wi-Fi by far. And you can run multiple networks, which is really the cool part. You can run multiple networks on your same power lines. In other words, this is the part that I was really quizzical about, because I bought 2 sets of gear. One was a 500 megabits per second system, just 2 units, and then the other one was a 2 gigabit per second unit, 2 units, and and then you pair them, and if you pair them on different frequencies, they won't talk to each other. So
what brand are you using? I want to try this out.
I have to go look it up. I could look it up. I have to look it up on Amazon. They're Chinese brands.
So.
Because they're cheap. It's $79.
Oh, that's great.
And so you're loaded, and so you can have these, and there's all these standards. It's called home something. There's a standard. I have to write some notes.
Well, this is one little thing that's a problem. You, sir, cannot be a true ham radio amateur professional, because these power line things, they will give you some QR Mary that you won't believe.
Yeah.
They will mess up your...
Back in the 90s.
I can't wait to try it. I'm going to get one of these boxes, try it out, and I'm guarantee you it's going to create horrible noise on the...
You don't know that.
On the ham bands.
Those days are over. They've changed it to this new Home Plug, I think is the name of it.
Home Plug.
The Home Plug standard, which makes it cross-compatible. So I have these 2 separate networks running on my power lines. I'll tell you what the problem could be. I'm running these 2 separate networks on my power lines that are different. They don't talk to each other, but I could just as easily, even though they're different speeds, I can just as easily have them talk to each other by pairing them with all together in one power line operation. But what I've done is I'm running one system over using the Comcast connection, and I'm using one system using the Sonic connection. So I have these 2 separate sub networks within the house. Now, the problem, I'm told, although I think it's a long shot, especially looking around at people, it's a long shot, is that the signal does go out on the lines.
Yes.
And so my next door neighbor or the guy down the end of the block
could receive it.
could possibly get on my network, but he has to be paired.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a security
it turns
key.
out you can do it in some odd way if you have the exact same gear.
Well, so that's actually kind of cool. So you could provide, and you could charge your neighbor for internet.
You could do it. I think you could do it. I don't know what
I like
the
how
degradation would be, but I'm sure there's bandwidth would go down because of just general degradation. But
all right,
I think it's doable.
All right. So
if you're running, say you're running an apartment building or something, you can plug these in, and you can get. I'm not going to go on and on about this, but you can get you can get a lot of these systems have a master where you plug your network into, and then the slaves out in the field, out in the bedrooms or wherever you're going to put them.
In the bedroom where your slaves usually are.
The slaves should be in the bedroom. You put the slave unit has a Wi-Fi output, so you can go from home instead of having a mesh, which everyone's in fact the guys who set these things, you got to get a mesh, which is like, I don't want 30 receivers and transmitters in the house bombing away,
meshing with
me. It's ridiculous.
Well, you could also just give your slaves a really long Cat5 cable, Ethernet cable. Here, just walk around with that.
6 or 7, but yeah, if you have an old house, or you're not wired, or you're trying to run Cat5 all over the place, it's unsightly.
Yes,
it's no good. You got this is the Home Plug standard seems to work. In fact, it does work.
All right.
It's made a huge difference on my Roku viewing of the Warriors playoff games.
Wow. Okay. Well, I shall. Once you can tell me which one it is, I will purchase said device and I will check and see if it works with my
I'll get you a nice
professional
shirt.
ham radio gear.
I'll get you the cheapest one, which would be the most likely to be a problem.
Bet. That's a new term.
What?
I learned a new term.
What?
Bet.
Vet?
Bet. B-E-T. So here's how it works. You say, after dinner, let's watch the Warriors. Go ahead, try it.
Bet.
No, you say another well-rehearsed bit. No, so instead of, this is part of the compression culture that I've been following.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, I bet or you bet, say, hey, let's watch the Warrior games after dinner. Yeah, you bet. No, you just say bet.
Oh, that's dope.
Yes, exactly. And I had, of course, not heard of this. And then the millennials start talking about it, and they're all like, "Oh yeah, bet." I'm like, "What? I'd not heard this."
There's a number of YouTube videos that I recommend people track down about millennial slang.
Bet.
And that's the tip of the iceberg. I didn't understand a word half these people were saying. It's almost like jive talk from the 40s.
It's compression. We're compressing everything, all language. It's all. I got to tell you, Google now has Google Podcasts, which I'm happy with because for a number of reasons. But you can do an online player just in a web browser. They are doing, I don't know if it's planned or if they're already starting to do transcriptions, and then they're indexing that so you can search on podcasts, which of course is fantastic. We encourage that. But they also have a 1.5 playback speed. And I don't know, I was looking for an old segment. I was going through some stuff, and I just hit it 1.5. And I have to tell you that if that's what you're into, I mean, it doesn't raise your voice an octave. I mean, it's just like Audacity. It just, it chops out the spaces in between. And
yeah, it's a tempo thing.
Yeah, it's really tempo. It's doable. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to do it. Again, I don't like jogging past the Mona Lisa either. But it does work, and that's what this is. It's compression, more information, more. It's emoji speak. Bet.
Well, I wish these kids all the luck in the world.
Yes. And they'll need it with the latest trend in the Netherlands.
They need to compress all this stuff because even when they're on a train, they're on their phone. They're not even looking out the window to see the sights. They're missing out.
Yeah. Bet. And then my favorite is, and I don't think this is something that's happening in the United States, but in the Netherlands, it is a big deal. Are you familiar with AirDrop? I don't think
Is this the idea that Amazon's going to drop packages off and hit you on the head with them?
No.
With a drone?
No. AirDrop is an Apple protocol. I don't think it's compatible with Android. But the Apple protocol, and you can, if let's say you want to share a picture or MP3 or whatever you want to share, and then you look at your AirDrop, and then anyone within your Bluetooth proximity will pop up, and then you can select someone, and then it'll send them a message saying, "Oh, you've got an incoming picture," or whatever it is, and then you click OK, and it starts transferring. This is typically enabled and on Apple devices, but you can send to multiple people. So train stations, bus stops, lines at the theater, people are airdropping dick pics to the entire group of people who are standing there.
I don't want a dick pic from some stranger.
I know, but
or anybody else for that matter.
That's part of the joke of it all. Is that you have this.
So it's a gag.
It's a gag. It's of course
people have these. Well, not everybody. I mean, let's face it. 90% of the phones out there are Samsung. So you'd only be catching the Apple iPhone users.
Yeah, there's enough of them. Believe me, there's enough of them that it makes a difference.
And this is always just turned on automatically and it's received without a yes or no?
Yeah, all these kids have all their shit on, man. They don't turn it off. They keep everything on. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and all of it. It's always on. Location.
They're idiots.
Yeah, these kids, let me see where my friends are.
Stuff on. People are going to steal your stuff.
They share their locations all the time with each other.
Yeah. End up dead.
Anyway, hey, people, share a No Agenda clip.
Yeah.
Label it dick pic.
Yeah, and then make it a show.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Make some promotion. Do some promotion for us, people. There you go.
All right, back to the show.
Yeah, well, that was part of the show.
I guess it was.
Always keeping tabs on what's going on around us. I feel pretty damn old, though. You think you're kind of in tune and hip with the kids? No, not at all. So let's talk about Iran for a second.
Just today, we got some. I got some old clips from a year ago on a podcast. Unfortunately, didn't write down the name of the podcast, but it's the last thing I could find by Ray McGovern.
Mm-hmm.
And I dug it up. It was from June of 2018. I dug it up because somebody mentioned that they said, I'm not listening to the Democracy Now! Show anymore ever since they kicked off Ray McGovern. And I said, what? And so I started looking, and they mentioned where it was, and I found this guy's podcast. He does, I think his radio show podcast, one of those combos.
Right.
And there was McGovern ranting about one thing or another, and it was some pretty good stuff. So I ended up getting 3 good clips.
Excellent.
And we'll start with Ray McGovern on the Schumer Intel comment. This was during the year when, I said 2018, but it was when they were talking about how Schumer said, well, yeah, mess with the intelligence agencies.
Oh, yeah. They got 12 ways to Sunday to get back at you. That one?
Yeah, and so they were commenting on this, and this is McGovern on Schumer.
Is that this is J. Edgar Hoover on steroids, and it's not a stretch at all.
That's just not the clip. That's the Hoover on steroids clip.
I don't think so. Let me try it again.
Ray McGovern on Schumer Intel comment?
Yeah, that's the one I thought I played.
In light of that...
so I guess not. Sorry, I got mixed up. I'll try it again. Here we go.
In light of that comment you just made, I'm just curious to get your response to that famous, notorious Chuck Schumer comment from early last year when he said, let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. That should have sent a chill up the spine of every American, but half of America apparently listened to that and said, yeah, they can really get you. Yeah. And that they thought that was normal. That's not normal.
Well, I hope it's not normal. It didn't used to be normal, okay? But the fellow whose name I was searching for, Eugene Robinson, who's on TV a lot, and he's supposed to be a progressive fellow for the Washington Post. He wrote that, this is a big mistake, taking on the FBI. You don't do this. The FBI doesn't take this kind of criticism lightly. Now, it was really very clear that this is the same Chuck Schumer attitude. And I thought, wow, Schumer just lost it. He's been around. Schumer has been around over 30 years. 15 years, as I recall, in the House, 15 years in the Senate now. He's Democratic leader in the Senate. And he's saying this scurrilous thing about how the CIA has a hold on the president of the United States. He must have just lost it. Well, I don't know about that anymore. It happens to reflect reality. And maybe this was Schumer's way of saying, look, we don't want to get into this. We Democrats, we like the way the FBI and the deep state is subverting or suborning all the people who work for Trump. So beware, if you take these guys on, they have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you. It was pretty blatant.
I thought that commentary was valid. And then we'll go into the Hoover clip.
Is that this is J. Edgar Hoover on steroids. And it's not a stretch at all to think that people like Nunes himself, like all the other Republicans and Democrats, realize that they can be destroyed by selective leaks. And selective leaks is the name of the game here in Washington, destroying their reputation. And so they have to be really careful not to vote against something that purports to be, and in this case, I'm using the right expression, purports to be defense against terrorist acts. There is not one, I repeat, there is not one terrorist act that is proven to have been prevented by mass surveillance. You have the proverbial haystack under which no needles have been found. And why is that? Well, it's a simple matter of volume. So let me just finish with this analogy here. J. Edgar Hoover did something really well. Under his tutelage, fingerprints were discovered, okay? Was that big? Yeah, that was really big. Did that prevent any bank robberies? Well, no, it didn't. Oh, but it helped catch the bank robbers if we had the prints on file. So the situation is analogous. You collect all this stuff, okay? You can't possibly use it to prevent a terrorist attack. But once one occurs, you look up the guys. Oh, yeah, here, right in the, like the Boston Marathon bomber. There, oh, we get him. Talk to his wife. This is what he said. You know? So all I'm saying here is that renewal of this very intrusive law, which goes against the Fourth Amendment, you know, I should probably explain. We may be considered quaint or even obsolete, but we, when I say we, I mean people like Bill Binney, Ed Loomis, Kurt Wiebe, myself, we swore a solemn oath, just one. And that solemn oath was to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, okay, end quote. Now, does that oath have an expiration date? Actually, it doesn't.
Yeah, it. What does that remind me of?
Well, it reminds me of somebody says "okay" a lot, which has got to go. But
yeah, well,
anyway,
go ahead.
He's, by the way, willing to do an interview with the show here. But
this now I know what it reminds me of.
Isolating him is not that easy.
When you have all this data and we're saying, "Oh, look, we tracked it exactly. It's all after the crime has been committed." That reminds me of technical stock traders. You know, who use technical analysis. They're always
I do exactly what you're going to say.
They're 100% correct after the fact. It's like, see this line, see it bounced off that Fibonacci, and that's why it. Yeah, but when you look at it in real time, there's no predictor.
You can't predict anything.
No.
Okay, so this is the last clip, and this is the one that I get. The reason I went to track this down. I'm sorry. I apologize to the podcaster who put this out because I didn't make the note of him, and I went just now to look for him, and I couldn't find him. So this is the one that really got me, though. And this is the one that apparently other people have noticed, and it's deplorable what you're going to hear.
And you see a lot of change in 55 years, but there's one change that dwarfs all the other changes, and that is that we no longer have, in any real sense, a free media, and that is big. I mean, you got the progressive people all falling in. I've been banned from Democracy Now! For 2 years because I don't say the right things. That's Amy Goodman's program. I've been banned from commondreams.com, from truthout.com, from reader-supported news. Now, all these people used to publish my stuff automatically. No more.
Yeah, see, I don't understand this as a problem. To me, everything's been subjugated. It's not important anymore. Mainstream is not important. And by the way, today's new generation, they're not watching it anymore. They don't care. Twitter is the game. It's a game. First, you try to get status by getting a blue check mark. You can do it with 500 followers. You just have the right story about who you are. And then the game is to try and get something into the mainstream news, which is not really happening. It hasn't been happening for the past couple of months because of Barr, Mueller, Trump. And then, you continue to fight for points and you lose by getting deplatformed. It's a game. It's a game.
Well,
it has
the game
nothing
is
to do.
ridiculous, and he's right about the news. And Seymour Hersh was also, you haven't heard him say it, but he's been kicked off one platform after another.
Mm-hmm.
He can't get printed anywhere from the looks of it.
What's a Pulitzer? Screw him. Doesn't he have a couple even? Couple Pulitzers?
He might, but he does. He gets it out of his system by writing books. But
well, so this
you need to sell books. You need to get on the other venues so you can promote the books.
But this is not the
front big mailing list, which he doesn't have.
I don't believe this is the frontier of the new intelligence services, the new intelligence community. It's not going to be mainstream. It's well established. They got all their old people in there looking at you, Phil Mudd. No. And this is a clip not about the FBI, but the CIA. And I can tell you, who, by the way, are really good at Operation Mockingbird. I thought it was hilarious to watch Anderson Cooper. Who was he interviewing about the CIA? Anderson Cooper was CIA.
He probably still is, and the problem
Yes.
that he has is the problem they all have, which is he has to be circumspect with what he says, and so you will get freaked out. You've seen this with these other guys too; they don't know quite what to say. The Cuomo guy that's on CNN had the same problem. He says you can't look at the WikiLeaks; it's illegal to go on the WikiLeaks.com page. You have to let us tell you what it says.
Yes.
This is because you're scared to death that you're going to make some mistake and you're going to get pulled in and perhaps jailed or shot.
So if you wanted to reach today's the current generation, the one that matters, let's just say millennials, but 18, 24, just in that 20s range, you really want to reach them, you really want to propagandize them, even grab a few younger kids along the way. What medium do you need to be in with your messaging?
Well, you have to be on Instagram. You have to be on YouTube.
No, I mean, really, really. I'm talking storylines. I'm talking Lear Foundation type stuff. I'm talking
the sitcoms,
real
the dramas.
No, they don't watch it anymore. Okay, Game of Thrones.
At a comic book superhero convention in Washington called AwesomeCon, it doesn't matter which way you turn. You're certain to see middle-aged men in Batman costumes. Not exactly the place you'd expect a CIA discussion on recruiting foreign spies. And yet...
So what we came up with is this game.
CIA staff historian Randy Burkett, wearing khakis and a polo shirt with the CIA logo, leads the talk. He hands out copies of a famous letter Albert Einstein wrote to President Franklin Roosevelt in 1939, warning about German efforts to develop an atomic bomb. Einstein was already in the U.S., but in this game, the twist is to pretend he's still in Nazi Germany and figure out how to recruit him without getting him arrested or killed. It's just one quirky example of the agency's new outreach to a broader base of potential recruits. The CIA says it needs a wider range of specialized skills than ever before, from linguists to scientists to cyber experts, and openly advertises on Twitter and Facebook. And it just joined Instagram. In a recent speech at Auburn University, CIA Director Gina Haspel noted the change since she applied in the mid-1980s.
I wrote a letter to the CIA on my manual college typewriter, and I mailed it to CIA with my resume, and I didn't have an address, so I just put CIA, Washington, D.C., and here I am.
Haspel's two public speeches as CIA director have both been at universities, with explicit recruiting pitches. The CIA doesn't talk numbers, though broadly speaking, it says applications shot up after the 2001 al-Qaeda attacks. They dipped in more recent years. But, Haspel says,
we just had our best recruiting year in a decade.
And it's not surprising that they're here. Look at the success of the Avengers, the comic books, the stories. This is where they're focusing. This is where they're going to be adapting storylines, getting messaging. My God, look at Supergirl on the CW. It's nothing but global warming, the immigration. It's all Trump, Orange Man bad. This is where it's going. And by connection, it means we'll have a lot of podcasters who are CIA spooks.
Not us.
No, not us, but there's a lot of comic book podcasters.
There are. The best comic book podcasters who or potential comic book podcasters I know of are not CIA. So
not yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
But see, I'm not a comic book guy, but I know a lot of people who are, and people who I consider to be young adults who like comic books. And now we need to.
Yeah, it's less work.
Yeah, we need boots on the ground.
That's what our CIA needs.
Yeah. Well, what we need for this show is we need people to keep an eye on it, and if you're into comic books, see if you can get that job at the CIA. That would really be cool for the show. And B, tell us what you're reading if you see anything suspicious. Supergirl is it's the television show.
I
get an email a week about that show at least. Oh, you got to see this. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at it. That's all promotion, or manipulation, or call it whatever you want.
Well, advertising.
And with that, I'd like to thank you for your courage and say in the morning to you, the man who put the C on CIA, John C. Dvorak.
Well, in the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry. Also in the morning to all ships and sea boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the dames and knights out there.
And in the morning to the trolls in the troll room, who I'm sure some of them at least, they're trolling, but they read a lot of comic books there. NoAgendaStream.com is where you can always check in, listen to any number of shows live 24/7. Of course, we have repeats, but then you can sit there in the troll room and troll along. It's a lot of fun and sometimes very useful and helpful for the show, and it's appreciated. And in the morning to Nick the Rat, he brought us the artwork for episode 1137. That was the Mother's Day edition, a beautiful Happy Mother's Day, just a standard old bouquet of flowers with nice Happy Mother. It's so. I think we always do this, don't we, on Mother's Day and these kinds of occasions? Nothing too nutty art-wise. Just basic.
Yeah, we don't do nutty stuff for Mother's Day. Now, I used that because I couldn't resist. I used to no avail. I used Joshua Pettigrew's "What Me Worry" picture of
Buttigieg, yes, looking like Alfred E. Newman.
And I ran this against the internet's various attempts at this look.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very good. For one thing, you use the No Agenda. I like to use the Mad Magazine logo for No Agenda at the top.
Right.
But this was a superb. I mean, we didn't use it for Mother's Day, obviously, because it's got nothing to do with anything. And we didn't even discuss it.
Right.
He was guessing. But because he had to put some effort into this. This was and it was in the newsletter as the main logo. Or top. It's the top of the newsletter. Just took some effort.
It was the lead, is what you're telling us.
I don't know what even to call it. But I looked at this, and I looked at the other attempts to do this, and this is really a fine piece of Photoshop, moving and stretching. This had to take, unless he has a special tool, this had to be a pain in the ass to do. It's just pretty outstanding. I suppose you could take the picture and then do just a resize and stretch it to the left and right, and then you could fine tune the idiosyncrasies of it, like the missing tooth and the big ears.
Mm-hmm.
But this is really I just had to use this thing before it kind of washed back into the archives.
It may be handy again. Yeah, it may be handy again.
It might be.
You never know.
Although I don't think this guy's much of a player.
We appreciate.
So we had to but meanwhile, I used that, and I had a nice idea for. Well, you kind of came up with the idea of the 5150 donation, and it was the biggest dud for I'd say since the whole year.
And I'm kicking myself because I didn't learn until this morning. I got an email about, because this is episode 1138. 1138 is no insignificant number for the very same people who will become spooks in the future. Everyone who's a Star Wars nerd knows about 1138. Don't you?
I'm waiting.
THX 1138. That's that was George Lucas's first movie. And he always
the movie that he filmed that in some of the, I think, the Alameda Tunnel or something.
Yeah, and then he's always slipping the 1138 into his other movies as an Easter egg.
Well, there you go. We missed it.
I know. We missed it. We blew it. But I don't think that's the reason.
Everyone decided not to donate to this show, and it really is painful. We have one associate executive producer, who will be bumped up to executive producer as the only person to contribute to this segment of the show. He'll be the only producer. Sir Johnny the Swamp Knight came in with $202. I'm sure he didn't expect this. Bonus. Thank you for producing the greatest podcast in the universe, and please accept this donation to continuing the great work Wookie of media deconstruction. I have thoroughly enjoyed the recent weeks of analysis and wanted to send along an anecdote. Back in 2005, I had freshly moved to the swamp with a college acquaintance of mine, and we were rooming together in a rundown house in Arlington. While he was seeking a job on Capitol Hill, he was moonlighting as staff at a prominent D.C. restaurant downtown that was part of an upscale hotel. One night he came home and told me he had an awkward encounter with a senator. As part of his duties, he sometimes delivered orders from the restaurant to guests of the hotel. Apparently, then Senator Joe Biden had ordered room service and answered the door in a very loosely tied robe.
Oh, no.
I asked if he thought the senator was coming onto him, but my roommate thought Biden was just obvious, and this was just some poor schlub bringing him some food. In the past couple of months, I have vacated the swamp for the fertile lands of Tennessee, where my neighborhood is thankfully free of amygdala-induced lewd graffiti such as "Pence loves penis" and fake Trump heads being impaled on the sword of a statue of Joan of Arc in the park next to my apartment. He's got some pictures. As such, being in a new city, I would request some dating karma so I can finally get one of those smoking hot girlfriends other producers are always talking about. A Detective Dookie jingle would also brighten my day considerably. Finally, I want to congratulate Adam on his impending marriage to the keeper. May you have many prosperous years on the Austin frontier. Cheers, Sir Johnny, the Swamp Knight in exile.
So I feel really bad. I cannot find the Detective Dookie Poop Patrol jingle anymore.
Detective Dookie Poop Patrol.
Yeah. Dum-dum-dum-dum. And then it's like, smells like poop. But I don't remember. I mean, did we title it something odd? I've tried Special Victims Unit. I've tried...
Look under San Francisco.
San Francisco. Let me see. No. It's one of our oldest jingles. That's why it's driving me nuts. I guarantee, I promise I will make good on this. I have to figure out why I can't find it. SPU. Maybe it's SPU. I was looking under the wrong.
What's SPU?
Special Poopers Unit.
Oh.
I can't even find any other poop jingles.
Now you got some issue going on. This has been going on for a couple of shows.
Well, it's...
Sure the database is even attached?
The database is attached. I don't know. I just cannot, for the life of me... It must be titled something different.
Is that under Dookie or Poop?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. This is a very, very popular podcast. If you just tuned in, we are looking for Dookie or Poop. We are... Now, Dookie would be Dookie, I presume.
Yes,
Dookie.
That's the way I would.
But even Dook doesn't get me there. It's
How about detective.
Detective, and I've tried that.
How about DET?
DET?
Yeah, detective. Just the beginning, just as shortened.
Yeah.
No.
Detective. No, it's not. No, it's... by now, I think we've talked about it long enough. You would have expected someone to have sent it to me already.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
In the mail.
All right, we'll give him a karma, and that's it. That'll be it. That's all we got for this segment.
It got lost in the move. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was a bad day.
I'll find it. I'll find it. I promise. I'll make good for you. I make good.
You've got karma.
And that's it. But of course, Sir Johnny the Swamp Knight did get an executive producership instead of his associate executive producership. Also nice. But I got to tell you, this was disappointing. Today's showing, and there are more people to thank, but even that list is going to be pretty short.
It's very short, yeah.
I don't know. I take it personally every time this happens. It's like, okay, I guess people aren't getting enough value. I'm going to obsess over this, and we won't even have another live show until next Thursday.
It's going to ruin the wedding.
It might. It bothers me, and now I'm like, what is it? Because I'm too busy with the wedding. I didn't. haven't focused enough. I don't know. I immediately blame myself for this, even though we all know it's your fault.
This reminds me, might as well mention this. So unfortunately, I don't have his name. I think he didn't put a note in, and he's just, I can look him up because I know he's the guy. He's one of our producers who writes in from Weed. Mm-hmm. I don't have his name handy, but he sent a couple of mugs that say, "I love weed." And it says California underneath, and a couple of bumper stickers. And I guess he sent 2 of everything. And I guess one was for me and one was for you. And I have to report, unfortunately, your mug got chipped.
You are the worst, Dvorak. Now, what did this mug look like?
The mug is absolutely just a gorgeous mug. I mean, it's embossed. It's like, I don't know where they even made these mugs, but it's like one of the best, a coffee mug. One of the best. I don't know if you use, random logoed coffee mugs. Some people refuse to use them because they're like coat hangers, and you're Joan Crawford. But some people make a collection of them. I have my mug collection is random. It's handmade ones, and ones like the weed one, and all the other ones that come along. And some I make from Zazzle. I sent you one from Zazzle. I don't know what you ever did with it.
The No Agenda 10, yeah, I have that. I use it. It's a huge one.
Yeah, it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if you use that kind of mug just generally, but I'll make sure we get another one, or I'll bring in mine and I'll use the other one.
Just bring me the chipped one; it'll be worth more that way in the long run.
Now, because it got chipped in the shipping, I'm thinking, well, I'll bring him the good mug. I was just joking about yours got chipped, but I'll bring you the good mug. But then now I'm fearful it's going to get chipped on the shipping. I have 2 chipped mugs. So what I want to do is I'll just give the guy your addressing and ship you a mug directly.
Somehow, I was already disappointed in the donations. Now I'm disappointed in so much more after this the conversation about the mug.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Seriously, we do need your help. Please do this for us. Keep us on the air.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Order. Shut up, slave.
Squirrel.
Shut up, slave.
Yeah. Well, it's what it is. But this is a historic low in over a year at least.
Yeah, this is terrible.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I couldn't blame it on the newsletter not getting through.
No.
Because it apparently got through more than usual. I mean, I have my 4 or 5 monitors out there keep sending me these notes, and it all went to primary. I don't think one person, unless you didn't get the newsletter at all, which is possible because that seems to be happening more than it should, which I wonder about why that happened. And I also got one guy sent me he got a note from his provider saying that this email's not verified.
Oh.
But that was a fluke.
Well, we're going to start running into other problems. I don't want to get too technical, but Gmail definitely, if you're sending from an email server that doesn't do TLS encryption, Google is now going to let you know, hey, this person didn't send it to you right. And then eventually, of course, they'll start blocking it. Unless you use encryption, which you should have. I'll be the first to admit, but they're kind of strong arming this. I don't like that very much.
No, it's the Google police.
Yeah,
Google doesn't. Well, it's just their email. Look, it's our email system. You volunteered to use it. You've signed off on it.
Yeah.
So you just use it and shut up.
That's the voice. That's exactly the way the voice sounds.
That is Google.
Okay, now I wanted to just mention Iran, which you took us right into Ray McGovern when I said Iran the last time. But I'm concerned about what is happening, and I'm not just concerned. I'm confused to some degree.
Well, I want to mention before I get into this, and I do have one clip. We got a note from a guy, one of our producers, who's a military guy. I think we got a couple of these, and saying that these are not big deals. They have a flotilla, strike group sitting there where it is off the coast of Iran. It's not. This is common. It's not nothing to get worked up about.
Unless they start steaming towards the Straits of Hormuz, then I would be getting a little more worked up about it. But
I think they are.
I'm sorry?
And he says this, and then they get worked up about it.
Well,
well, play us your clip and give us your
No,
analysis.
I don't have a clip. You said you have a clip. I wanted to talk about Iran.
Okay.
And you
Here's
jumped
just
in.
background. This is Iran and the bogus ship attacks.
New images tonight showing the damage to a Norwegian oil tanker, one of a series of ships struck in mysterious attacks, including ships from Saudi Arabia and the UAE, both enemies of Iran, as they were near the Strait of Hormuz, a critical pathway for much of the world's oil supply. The Saudis are calling it sabotage, President Trump issuing a warning if Iran is responsible.
It's going to be a bad problem for Iran if something happens, I can tell you that. They're not going to be happy.
As tensions rise with Iran, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo today detouring to a European summit to share intelligence on Iran with skeptical allies.
We are very worried about the risk of a conflict happening by accident with an escalation that is unintended really on either side.
Last week, the U.S. sending a carrier group to the region as a show of force.
Are we going to a war with Iran? Are you seeking regime change there?
We'll see what happens with Iran. If they do anything, it will be a very bad mistake.
Andrea joins us now. Andrea, any indication who's behind these attacks?
Well, Iran said today that the attacks were alarming and regrettable, but after Pompeo's briefing to the Europeans, I talked to a diplomatic source who told me that the group felt that they still need more information about what the attacks were, how it took place, and who is responsible. The president made it clear if they believe that Iran is responsible, they're going to respond to them.
All right, Andrea, thank you.
So it was not just the oil tankers. Now, there's also a story about one of the Saudis' pipelines being hit by weaponized drones, which would kind of be a first. I'm not talking like big drones, but by smaller drones.
This was the attack by Yemen.
Yeah, but this... Why? Okay, I understand what is going on, but I don't like the actors in this play. I don't like Bolton. I think Pompeo is a douche. And
yeah, I agree. I don't like Bolton or Pompeo.
And then, and here's my problem: is that Bolton and maybe Pompeo, they were all in this New York bathhouse scene with Trump, and that's what I'm worried about. If he's being blackmailed into this somehow, which I think is really possible, because there's all kinds of weird gay stuff that was going on back in the day with Roy Cohn. Bolton was a part of it. And, just thinking of this guy, it creeps me out. Pompeo. Trump needs to fire these people. Get them out. They're just angling. You just sit here. I mean, we could go over, lob a firecracker and start this thing, get it going. I mean, it's not going to take much. And listen to what Trump is saying. They'll be real sorry. Now, he did the same with North Korea, but this is a little different scenario.
Well, here's this follow-up clip, which is the leaving the Iraqi embassy. What is this about?
Yeah, I got an interesting note about that.
The State Department's ordered all non-emergency personnel to evacuate the U.S. Embassy and consulate in Iraq. The order's in response to what the White House says is a threat linked to Iran, though no further details were given. Iraqi officials expressed skepticism about any purported threats, as did a senior British official who's the deputy commander of the American-led coalition fighting the Islamic State. Tensions between the U.S. and Iran have continued to mount over recent days, despite both parties saying they're not seeking war. The U.S. recently deployed a carrier strike group and a bomber task force to the region, claiming a credible threat by Iranian regime forces, though not showing any evidence.
We have boots on the ground in the green zone there in Iraq at the embassy.
And before you read that, I want to mention that this area, which is I know a couple of guys who worked in there. This green zone is like Hayward. It's like a very large.
It's rather large.
It's a large, small American town with housing and streets and fire hydrants and dogs and on leashes and we put up an embassy during the Bush administration, which is billions of dollars. It was going to be the embassy to run all embassies. Yep. It was going to centralize the embassy system in the Middle East. And it was this monstrosity, another one of the classic, try to make it as ugly as you can and ominous and horrible looking type of embassy, which we've put up
well
around
done.
the world.
we did
and we do
good
a
on
really
that.
good job of making these buildings. They're blocky and they're not architected. They're not attractive. They're just ominous. And we threw a ton of money into this one, and now we're just going to abandon it. Well, what are we talking about here?
Well, one of our producers has a food services business at the embassy and was also evacuated, and he is livid. He said there was nothing going on, total horseshit. He says, actually, it's been fantastic in the green zone, but all around the embassy. It's been good business for him as well. He says, and now they're all getting sent home. He says, total bullshit, bull crap.
Well, what does that tell us?
Well, that tells us that they're just waiting for something to pop it off. And, this was the final of the Wes Clark 7. We should probably check it again just to make sure that we've got all the countries covered. This was 2 weeks after 9/11. General Wesley Clark was told this is what our plans were.
So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
I think we need to go back and do Lebanon over. We need a do-over. What have we done in Lebanon? Not much.
Well, we rebelized. I mean, taken out doesn't mean taken over. These guys aren't players anymore. Lebanon's a mess.
Right. Hey, we should do. Hey, No Agenda Shop guys should do a tour T-shirt, like the Wes Clark Middle East tour, and just have
have a lot of rubble.
We'll just have those, and on the back of the shirt you have all the tour dates, which and you cross them off.
So each one identifiable.
Each one that's been rubbleized. Yeah, those guys will do something fun. I know they can do it. Wes Clark 7 World Tour of the Middle East. Yeah. Now, not that I think that if there's a false flag of some sorts, and I'm going to use that word because I think that's really what the idea is here. This is what Bolton does. He sold the weapons of mass destruction memes, all these things. Why are we so stupid? We just and why are our representatives all for it? Yeah, war.
That's the one that gets me.
Yeah, well, that's why Tulsi Gabbard.
I mean, the only people the other thing is, and I will bring this up, even though you think everything's Instagram, the fact that we don't have the Ray McGoverns out there and the other people that are all liberals, by the way, Seymour Hersh, Ray McGovern, all these guys, and there's others that we've had clips on the show. These people are extremely left.
Yeah.
And they have things to say that are like, hey, wait a minute, what are you guys doing? This is crazy. They're just not being allowed to have any voice. I mean, the only voice of reason, and we're centrists, is this show. I mean, there's a few other shows that, will say things that seem to be reasonable and rational. But most everybody, especially the big networks, the news, the big four, which would be New York Times, Washington Post, is a very left and warmongering. In other words, they violate the principles of the old left, that's for sure, where there's supposed to be peaceniks. There are no peaceniks there at the Washington Post and the New York Times.
No.
Where's the peaceniks? And then you have CNN and MSNBC, which is NBC, which manages to get its message across on all sorts of levels, and ABC and CBS are one's pretty much a CIA outlet, and the other one is I don't know what they're up to. The ABC folk.
Rubble on the double.
Yeah. Well, I just trying to figure out what's going on in Trump's head, and either he's not even looking at it, but he's making the right noises. If you want to kick something off, maybe he doesn't understand just how idiotic and crazy these Pompeo
he stepped back to 2015 when he was bitching about this sort of thing.
Yeah, about just going around and making war,
wasting money on these stupid wars, and wasting American lives.
It's annoying.
And he complained bitterly in his big, giant speeches. What is he saying now?
Well, then that can only mean that he doesn't intend anything to happen, but he doesn't know who he's dealing with. Mustache Man is no good.
The walrus, as Michael Savage calls it.
Yeah, well, this guy gets us into war. That's what he does. And again, so then I go
He's
back.
the last vestige of the neocons.
And yes. And that's why I go back to what I said earlier. We know about the New York bathhouses. We know about all the weird stuff you guys were doing. So to me, I mean, it must be so severe. I don't know. Maybe the intelligence agencies did have 6 ways till Sunday to get back at him. But this does not
I would think
fit
the New York bathhouses, which you're referring to, and also Plato's Retreat,
yes,
which was a heterosexual operation that was major, and all the other crap going on in New York and San Francisco. The Zephyr is late. All that stuff is going on, and San Francisco was one of the CIA strongholds because that's where a lot of the LSD experimentation was taking place.
Right.
In this area, and including some spraying of stuff in the air, and there's a lot of crazy activity in the Bay Area. They must have film.
Yeah, possibly.
I would think if those bathhouses were as raucous as portrayed, especially the gay ones, and there was a number of them in the San Francisco too.
Yeah,
they filmed a lot of these guys. Oh, look who's here! Holy that guy! He's a senator. Let's just get the camera running on this guy.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, if you and I were running the show.
It's a blackmail operation. That's what it is.
Yeah. So something is going on. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But I don't like it. I'm very worried about it.
Yeah, well, Bolton's got to go.
Yeah, and Pompeo too.
Who hired him? How did he get in there? Was it one of the?
He showed up with a
Mattis? Was it Mattis that brought him in? Who brought him in?
Trump brought him in. He showed up with a VHS tape.
Who told Trump to bring him in?
I don't know. Bolton just showed up with that mustache and said, "Remember this?" Why not?
Remember this mustache?
Remember this? Huh? Remember this stash, baby? Creepy.
You brought it up.
There's some weird stuff going on in New Zealand after the Muslim mosque massacre in the Christ Church. People are receiving what they are categorizing as political visits, home visits from the police to talk with them. And there's people are doing YouTube videos of them. And the cops come by and say, yeah, we just want to talk about what you've been posting on Facebook. There's just multiple reports of this taking place, but also legislatively speaking, New Zealand is trying to basically censor the entire internet.
New Zealand, we've noticed this not within the last year or two, but maybe 4 or 5 years ago. New Zealand is a borderline police state already, with everyone smiling about it. I mean, it's like a happy place. And there's a lot of Americans who bought property over there. And I know one of the earliest ones, Doug Carlson, who used to be one of the principals at Broderbund. And he bought a big place there and abandoned it. He says, no, it's not for me. And he moved out. I mean, he was going to move to New Zealand. A lot of Americans attempt to move to New Zealand, and many give up.
Well, there is now a consortium called the Christ Church Call at christchurchcall.com, subtitled "To Eliminate Terrorist and Violent Extremist Content Online." And I'll tell you, there's only 3 sections to this very small website. I'll tell you who the quote-unquote supporters are to start right off. Companies, countries, and organizations that support the Christ Church Call are listed below, and then they have lots of countries. The United States, not one of them, but Australia, Canada, the EU, France, Germany, Indonesia, the United Kingdom, Sweden, the Netherlands, Jordan, Japan. But the companies who are in on the Christ Church Call are more interesting. Amazon, Dailymotion, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Quant, Twitter, YouTube. And this site is maintained by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. This is not just some little organization. This is the government. The Call is so they have a page said The Call. A free and open, secure internet is a powerful tool to promote connectivity, enhance social inclusiveness, and foster economic growth. The internet is, however, not immune from abuse by terrorists and violent extremist actors. This was tragically highlighted by the terrorist attacks of 15th of March 2019 on the Muslim community of Christchurch. Terrorist attacks that were designed to go viral. The dissemination of such content online has adverse impacts on the human rights of the victims and our collective security and on all people all over the world. Huh? So what they want to do, the call outlines collective voluntary commitments from governments and online service providers intended to address the issue of terrorist and violent extremist content online and to prevent the abuse of the internet as occurred in and after the Christchurch attacks. To that end, we, the governments, plural, commit to counter the drivers of terrorism and violent extremism by strengthening the resilience and inclusiveness of our societies to enable them to resist terrorist and violent extremist ideologies, including through education, building media literacy to help counter distorted terrorist and violent extremist narratives, and the fight against inequality. There you go. So they're going to have frameworks, they're going to have awareness campaigns, development of industry standards of said voluntary frameworks, regulatory or policy measures consistent with a free, open, and secure internet and international human rights law. This sounds to me like I'm from the government, I'm here to help. And it's...
none of it sounds good.
No.
And if they're coming into people's houses and asking to have a chat,
yep.
Can you imagine that? Because you have a clip that, Mr. Curry, Mr. Curry.
Yeah, I have it somewhere.
So if you had somebody knock on your door there in Austin and say,
Mr. Adam Curry, open up the door, Mr. Curry, now!
Mr. D.C. Vorak,
open up the door, Jebediah, now!
Jebediah. Yes, exactly, Jebediah.
If you had somebody knock on your door, just a couple of guys, they're just standing there in their suits, and they told you they weren't Mormons,
right.
They were actually from the government, they wanted to have a chat about the podcast, it would be very disconcerting.
No kidding. Yeah, we want to talk about the podcast. Well, so here's an article. Facebook announces that Facebook, one of the partners of Christchurch Call, Facebook announces changes on eve of Christchurch Call. Excuse me. This is about their live streaming policies. Starting today, people who have broken certain rules on Facebook, including our dangerous organizations and individuals policy, will be restricted from using Facebook Live. We now will apply a one-strike policy to Facebook Live in connection with a broader range of offenses. From now on, anyone who violates our most serious policies will be restricted from using Live for set periods of time, 30 days for an example, starting on their first offense. You see, we went from the three-strike rule, now we're at one-strike rule, and pretty sure you have to be verified, and then you just can't use the platform. But again, this is not to save your ass. This is to protect Facebook from advertisers leaving because they don't want to be associated with killers. And that's why they're like, well, go easy. Yeah, we'll ease into this.
Well,
what?
Well, what if you were an advertiser? What would you do?
Oh no, I'd want the same thing. Of course. There was another article that I wanted to share.
It's a problem, by the way. We talk about this. The reason that this No Agenda show works so well is because we don't have these sorts of influences, so we can free range our discussions.
Yes.
Without having to worry about somebody calling us after the show is over. And I don't think people need to be reminded of this. It's extremely important that they're the ones who should be supporting the show, and you have to pay the price to get this sort of discussion without the boundaries set by advertisers and corporations and others that don't want any of this discussed because it might hurt their business.
I wanted to give you one more. This kind of falls under the purge heading. AdBlock Plus has now invested in Factmata, FACTMATA, This is, guess what? Another fact-checking company that will be the arbiters of your truth online. And
what's it got to do with AdBlock?
Well, AdBlock is actually an advertising company. You kidding me? AdBlock lets...
I know. They sell access.
Yeah, so they're going to do it for news now. They're going, of course, people will voluntarily install this. It's people. If you think that the
don't install it,
the networks, the social networks are going to be able to even what's the word I'm looking for? Sanitize your news. No, you'll install a blocker yourself. You'll think it's the right thing to do. But this particular Factmata, who will now be fact-checking for you, and probably through your AdBlock plugin, is a London startup financed by Biz Stone. He's is he of Twitter?
Twitter.
Craig Newmark, Wikipedia.
Craigslist.
Craigslist.
Sorry.
Same thing.
Not Wikipedia. Craig Jimmy Wales.
Right. He's not on it. Craig Newmark, Mark Pincus of Pinterest, right? Wasn't he Pinterest? I don't know. No, he was something else. He was the gaming company. Pincus was the crazy.
So I want Craig Newmark telling me what's right, what's wrong. The guy's a radical left winger.
No, that's not the guy you want. The other financial foundation partner is Mark Cuban. So now we know that
Mark Cuban got to do with anything.
Because
he must smell money.
Of course.
he's got nothing to do with
how else do you think you're actually going to get through? It's not about whether they think you're being truthful or not. It's how much you paid. Look, how long until eventually MailChimp comes to us and says, guys, you're really going to have to pay a little extra for us to have this all whitelisted with Gmail because they really don't like you. And, you have to you got to start ponying up. It's bound to happen.
Oh, yeah.
People get off Gmail. The Helm, by the way.
They won't. Here's the problem we have. People won't get off Gmail.
No.
And then they get to some other system. They're still bound by a bunch of blacklists and other things because nobody runs an email server without falling back on those things. And you have to kind of trust them. So there's a lot of microservices architecture that goes through the mail before it even comes into your box.
Yeah.
So that's not going to go away. And that could get worse. And that could even be worse than Gmail.
Yeah.
So you can't win. You're in the golden age of the internet where you actually have some freedom. This is going away. This is going away, and it's going away soon. And it's the only time I ever go on about, bad things are going to happen because that's not what the show is about. The show is about to show you how to analyze things. But this is a bad thing. Yeah. It's going to happen. It's happening as we speak. And just enjoy what you have now because – and I put the show in this category. It's not we're below the radar, as you can see by our last lousy donations, but it's not, it wouldn't take much to get, once it gets on the radar, it's like a target, and the next thing you know, there's no more show.
Yeah, even now I've been running my own email server for over a decade at least. And throughout time, I've had the server at different places, but I've also had it at home, which I haven't done in a while. I have a cloud server for it now. But there's a number of very interesting devices out there. Well, first of all, the problem that's presented itself is if you put a mail server, even on just a fresh IP address that you've used somewhere, you will now even start to get messages back from Google, from Gmail, saying, we have rejected this email due to lack of trustworthiness of the IP address it was sent from. By the way, understandable spam fighting initiative, but it's not really how the internet works, especially when you now, and this not happened to me, but people have emailed me about it, Google says, well, you can actually get through to our machine, but you have to put a special code in the TXT field of your domain registration. Of your DNS, your DNS registration, which of course allows Google to track what the hell is going on with your mail server. And then you get a dashboard so you can follow along with whatever they're seeing. So running a server at home is almost no longer an option. Whereas
I thought there were some appliances that came out of late.
Well, there is one. Yes,
little boxes, the little email boxes. I don't know this.
I'm going to tell you. It's called the Helm, TheHelm, the Helm, and I think it's thehelm.com. And what they've done is they will actually, and does a number of things, this box, but it looks pretty decent. But to circumvent the problem of being a trusted email sender, because the receiving side is pretty much no problem, they are going to provide a service at some amount annually or per month that does the SMTP, so the outbound email traffic that you're sending. And it's really kind of a trick. It's masking it, so you'll at least be trusted, but it's still not a perfect independent solution.
And you have to pay.
Yeah, you got to pay. Exactly right.
You have to pay. You want to play, you got to pay.
All I want is for educators, please, teach your kids how the internet works. Let them set up a web server. Let them make some mistakes. Help them understand how email works. Just show them a few things. Maybe one or two of them will get a clue. Because, yeah, and it's all a mind trick. It's purely manipulation. It's like the AOL. You're safe here on Facebook. Yes. Twitter.
Keyword.
Oh, keyword. Yeah, keyword. That's coming too. Keywords are coming. They'll build it into the browser. The only
keyword, no agenda.
The only guys I have true faith, a hope in, and some faith, but I don't think they can. If they really want to make money, it won't happen. Is Gab. The Gab guys, they're doing smart stuff, especially that Dissenter, and now they've built their own browser. This is what's cool about the open source stuff is eventually you get people saying, I'm sick and tired of what Google is doing with Chrome. Or Chromium, and I'm going to take this and add this into it, and then you get something cool. The problem is when they try to put business models in place, where I think the only way to go is still value for value. If you make a great browser that circumvents a lot of this crap and is great for me, I'll donate money. It's like the Pi-hole. The Pi-hole is free. You just donate if it was worth anything to you. It's been fantastic. That's what needs to happen. We need to get away from the constantly trying to make money with this shit.
You're hearkening back to the days of before it was ever called shareware, it was called freeware.
Yes.
And this was in the late 70s and early 80s. And most guys would be writing their code, and it was called freeware, and it was free.
Yeah.
And it didn't have any gimmicks. It wasn't hampered. It wasn't handicapped. Didn't have a time thing that made it run out. It just was free. And then if you wanted to buy, if you wanted to give the guy some money, he would have a little thing, and they're asking for money, beg for money. And so, okay, we'll give you some money because I use this thing. And there's a lot of freeware. Eventually, it became shareware, and then it came with these gimmicks where if you can use it 3 times, it doesn't work anymore. Or you can use it, but it won't do this. And then it's been disableware. And the whole thing fell apart. But in the early days, it was very much like that. And if you go before this personal computer, there was a lot of that, except for these very expensive enterprise systems where you had, you'd pay, $10,000 for a word processor.
Yeah.
Yeah. None of this is going to happen.
No. And
the public's too stupid. Nobody cares.
Well, not our no agenda producers. They understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's a small number of people.
But it's very important because when I read headlines like Twitter launches new search features to stop the spread of misinformation about vaccines, what's happening is you're being presented with some kind of fact that you can never get this information. You won't be able to search for it. You won't be able to find it. And by the way, you're not even allowed to have an alternative view or even look or question anything. And I think actually I found what this may be about, this the MMR push, which has been fantastic. Now I don't know what, besides the obvious profit motive for Merck, who have reported great profits, blowing through quarter expectations, and specifically because of their MMR vaccine sales.
Yeah.
There's a show on Sirius XM. It's Sway's morning show. It's a urban, which is radio code for black people. So it's an urban show, and they bring on this Riza Islam, who I think he may be of the Nation of Islam. He certainly has the whole vibe with his suit and his bow tie. So yeah, I'd say he's there. But he talked about something very interesting, which goes beyond just profit margins for one pharmaceutical. This could be much bigger. Again, we're being told of outbreaks. We have to be very afraid. Fines of up to 2,500 euros in Germany if people are not vaccinated, or measles negative. I mean, they have all these scary terms now that are being brought in. And here's what he said.
The measles outbreak, number one, people have to understand that when it comes to the measles, between 2004 and 2014, there were no measles deaths from the actual disease, but there were 108 deaths from the measles vaccine.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, SB 276 pertains to the relationship between the patient and the doctor. So what they're trying to do is remove the patient from being handled by their doctor, and they're trying to give that authority to a health officer. A person who's never met you, never met your child, pretty much doesn't know anything about you, but they're going to be able to decide what to do as it pertains to vaccinating or inoculating your child.
I think he's nailing it with that. I didn't know about this bill that was in place. This is a holy grail for vaccines for sure, and for the MMR is to push it so that no longer do you have to get talk to your doctor, get an okay. No, you just go to a technical person who just does it. I think that's a big deal.
Well, we have some pharmacist producers bitching.
Yeah.
You got the note too, I guess. Saying, hey, they're telling us we have to give the vaccines, whether you want to or not.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
A lot of pharmacies give vaccines, especially in California.
Right.
Get your flu shot.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy says they're not interested in giving flu shots, but they have to. They're apparently some bill or something passed. They just have to do it.
Huh.
Or it's part of their agreement with the chain that they're part of. No, you're giving flu shots whether you like it. I don't like giving shots. I know, too bad.
This makes total sense, though. I mean, they're cutting. Think about it. If you don't have to convince doctors anymore to do this, you don't have to stop buying a bunch of hookers.
Well, you got doctors like my old Dr. Smith, who said, yeah, you know what? People are over-vaccinated. One time I went
have that guy.
Yeah, that guy he's no good. So I go in there and I say, there's a bunch of promotions on television. This is like 10 years ago. Hepatitis B shots.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what about this shot? Am I supposed to get one of these? He says, why? Are you working with blood?
Right.
And I said, no. He says, well, then don't get the shot.
This clip continues with Riza Islam,
which is 100% against medical practices. It's against the Hippocratic Oath. It's not how the Constitution works.
And what was the verdict of that bill, the SB 276?
It passed through the Health Committee. Which means it has to go through another step in order for it to become law. So once that happened, which, by the way, most people have to understand, when you're talking about an outbreak, the CDC has specific guidelines as to what they determine to be an outbreak. Okay, there has to be a certain number of people within a certain proximity or within a certain square mileage. They have not reached that number of people. Okay, so what they're saying is they are exaggerating to try to scare legislators into pushing laws or pushing bills through to become law. Okay, and as a matter of fact, right now they're saying there's an outbreak in LA because one student caught the measles at UCLA Medical Center. How is that an outbreak?
Yeah.
So they're trying to push that to, as I said, scare legislators into pushing this law, which is once again violating the U.S. Constitution.
In California puzzles me. Whereas we're forcing people, you have to take this MMR shot. But meanwhile, they passed legislation that you can knowingly expose a sexual partner to HIV.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, and they did this to destigmatize HIV.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, like, oh, you have to, and even if you knowingly donate HIV positive blood, it's no longer a crime in California. But everyone get your shots, forced, got to get it, get a fine.
I'm almost borderline convinced that California is some sort of a political experiment.
It's nuts.
It's like this. What else can we do with these people?
Let's see what else we can do to
crazier. Hey, I got an idea. we have a pretty stable climate situation here. And we got, for example, these mudflats haven't changed since 1880.
Let's fuck with it.
But let's see if we can convince these boneheads that they're going to die next week or within the next 12 years. Okay. I think I can go for that. I'm all in. Let's see what we can do.
Which, by the way, did you see AOC tweeted that, you don't understand humor? Apparently, it was a joke.
Oh, the garbage disposal thing?
No, the 12 years, 12 year we're going to die.
Oh, I thought she was saying that about the garbage disposal video. Are you sure?
No, this is about when she said, this is months ago.
Yeah, I know about the 12 years you're going to die.
Yeah, no, she was talking specifically about the 12 years from our World War II.
It was just a joke? She was just kidding?
Yes.
What is she, a stand-up comic?
No.
No, for sure.
Let me see if I can find this. I can read it to you verbatim. Here it is. Hold on. Let me open this up. She tweeted it. Yes. So someone said something nasty about her, and then she replied, "This is a technique of the GOP. To take dry humor plus sarcasm literally and fact check it. Like the world ending in 12 years thing. You'd have to have the social intelligence of a sea sponge to think that it's literal." Sounded pretty damn literal to me.
Sounded literal to me. She had no indications that it was humor, and now you see all these kids saying it. Why are these kids saying it?
Well,
why are these AOC kids going around with we want the Green New Deal because we're all going to die in 12 years? Was that a joke too?
Well, apparently, yeah.
So this is another where somebody is doing a little damage control here.
Yes. The people behind her who actually write her tweets.
Yes.
Most of the time. Yeah, of course there's some damage control because it's gotten out of hand and children now believe it. Maybe they're sitting around going, oh, crap, what did we do? But no, it's not just AOC. It's the entire establishment has been lying to these children.
Yeah.
So there was a couple of big conferences. Let me see. I thought I recorded this. Oh, yes. So they did this big Sunrise Movement event, and AOC and Bernie spoke at it. It was like 2.5 hours. It's all on C-SPAN. I've not seen it all, but I did. Well, first of all, I just had to get the opening as the director of the Sunrise Movement. Now, this is a very important group who have been funded to basically program children into thinking that now the extrapolation is, the world will deteriorate and we will die if we haven't done something within 12 years. Then it was 10 years. Now Greta Thunberg says it's 5 years that we have to get going. But they had a big event. I mean, if you're doesn't that sound kind of Nazi-ish to you?
Yeah,
seriously,
exactly.
Coming out like that, and then, hey, this is the start. This is the start of the entire thing, and this is what we have to do. The Green New Deal, which was a Senate resolution that failed, House resolution that just failed. None of the Democrats voted for it. It didn't really say that much, but now we're chanting it.
Hey, say with me now. Green New Deal. Green New Deal. Green New Deal. Green New Deal.
Kyle.
Green New Deal. All right, everybody, welcome. It is so incredible to see you all out tonight. Thank you for being here.
Now listen.
My name is Varshini Prakash. I am one of the co-founders of and the executive director of Sunrise Movement. And we are here for a super special last tour stop at the road to the Green New Deal. Thank you for making it here tonight.
Yeah. And And so it just went on and on and on and on.
There's some economists that came up with the fact that if we implemented any of these programs, we'd be out $14 trillion.
Well, we need not go any further than Germany, who spent $160 billion on their energy transition, the Energiewende, which was as recent as last week was reported as a complete failure, and everyone's disappointed, and they don't really know what to do. Then open up the nuclear plants and get back to at least some gas.
What idiots!
I know. Let me see.
Well, we saw that one coming down Broadway.
I would say the best Green New Deal climate change clip this week came from John Oliver, who is all in, and
of course
he brought in Bill Nye, the science guy, who we've been tracking for several years, his resurgence, and this is a nice little.
He's a good agent.
It must have done well. I don't know, because this one, it's on HBO, so language required.
Well, any agent, anybody can get him his own show where they have these disgusting. Yeah,
but the show is now canceled, isn't it?
Of course it was, but he got him the show.
Yeah,
the agent can't make the show a success.
So now he came in to do a bit on last week's news tonight. What is it? This week's news last night. John Oliver show.
Yes,
John Oliver show.
John Oliver show. Let's call it what it is.
The John Oliver show. And so there's like 2 or 3 bits, and this is the final bit, and he's talking about climate change. But it was in the last part that there was a kind of a coming together of things we've been looking at. One, Bill Nye selling climate change, but also the necessity to cuss incessantly because that's what frustrated people do when they're out of things to say. So he's behind his little science desk. He's got a globe, an actual globe on a stand, and he's got a fire extinguisher, and he has a blowtorch.
Here, I've got an experiment for you. Safety glasses on. By the end of this century, if emissions keep rising, the average temperature on Earth could go up another 4 to 8 degrees. What I'm saying is the planet's on fucking fire. There are a lot of things we could do to put it out. Are any of them free? No, of course not. Nothing's free, you idiots. Grow the fuck up. You're not children anymore. I didn't mind explaining photosynthesis to you when you were 12, but you're adults now, and this is an actual crisis. Got it? Safety glasses off, motherfuckers.
Woo! I mean, can you believe it?
Yeah, I can believe it.
Unnecessary.
I can believe it. You're exactly right. He ran out of things to say. Thinks it's, a little cursing in there makes people perk up because that audience loves that sort of thing.
You can only do that once or twice when Bill.
No, otherwise you just sound like an idiot.
Right. Well, he's the Bill Nye the Science Guy, who's a friendly guy. He's not supposed to be cussing and swearing.
Cussing away like that.
So for effect, it worked, but you can't keep doing that unless everyone wants him to now do that bit.
Well, maybe he's mad at his agent. So we have up north in Canada, we have climate change, of course, is really, I think they discuss it more up there than we do. And I didn't realize, but there's a woman up there. One of our producers sent me these, or sent me links, that is the Minister of Climate Change.
What?
Yeah, Catherine McKenna.
Nice.
And she is, and so she does this rant on mostly in French, and she does a little English version. I just want to play her there. I got 2 clips of her because I want to play first her talking to the press, and then I want to play her talking in Parliament, where it's just you can't barely hear her because she's yelling and screaming. She's a maniac. But here's Catherine McKenna, and this pretty much reflects the Trudeau government and the Liberal Party up in Canada.
We have conservative politicians from Doug Ford, who's spending $30 million of taxpayer money to fight climate change, to spread misinformation about our climate action incentive, where we're putting a price on pollution. 80% of families will be better off. He's not telling that story. They're cutting programs to help with flood management during a flood, tree planting programs. You have Jason Kenney talking about going back to coal, getting out of it, making it free to pollute. And then you have Andrew Scheer, who has no climate plan, except he's meeting with oil lobbyists, and he's committed to making it free to pollute, but also misleading their constituents. Conservatives are sending flyers out about tax incentives that people could get back in their ridings when they file their taxes, but they left out the most important tax incentive you can get, the climate action incentive rebate. So yes, we need a serious conversation about whether all parliamentarians are committed to tackling climate change, whether we are committed to our international obligations, and whether we're committed to moving forward together.
And will the government support the NDP motion today? And if not, why not?
Well, we put our motion forward first, and then the NDP came up with a different motion. And quite frankly, our motion it's just focused on a climate emergency. It's focused on the science. It's focused on our international obligations. The NDP motion includes a range of other measures, including some that are problematic. They talk about immediately eliminating fossil fuel subsidies. Well, let's think about the impact of that. You have Inuit in our north, or people who live in northern communities, they're still relying on diesel, and we give them incentives because life has to be affordable. If we immediately remove those subsidies, the incentives, that it would be very expensive. It's already too expensive in the north, so unintended consequences, and we've seen this with Jagmeet Singh. He's flip-flopped now on whether he's going to support an LNG project in BC.
It goes on and on.
Hold on.
But
I was just going to say, in the troll room, there was a question, do people really care about this climate crap? And I just wanted to answer that. Yeah, when you have to pay a climate tax, such as in France, yeah, for 6 months people have been pissed about it. Or Canada, and you pay $800, but you get $150 back. Woo, good deal. Yeah, people care about this, totally.
She uses the term climate emergency.
Yep. Although it should be climate crisis.
Climate crisis is the preferred term.
To get the memo.
Now, I want to make that clear to everybody that we have switched from global warming and climate change to climate crisis.
Yep.
Climate emergency is not correct, but she's using it. She needs to get a memo. She probably will. But here she is in Parliament, where she really likes. She's an MP, but she's also one of the ministers, and so she feels obliged to be able to lecture the parliamentarians about how bad things are.
I feel like the party opposite. You're worried about costs. You should be worried about the costs that we are passing on to our kids, the cost of climate change. Yeah. We have got an emergency here, and the party opposite is not telling the truth to Canadians. We are paying. We've gone from $400 billion a year to over $2 billion, to $400 million to $2 billion because of the cost of climate change. Why don't they step up? Why don't they step up for climate action? Why don't step up for the economy of the future and stop misleading Canadians?
What? That was good.
And she got a standing O from the Liberal Party.
That was good. What is the misinformation? Did she specify that?
Everything.
Hey, another thing I noticed with the millennials, they do believe most of what and they're not really well informed, I find, but they believe what they're hearing about the climate crisis, and it's understandable when you see your peers going out and protesting it for it. But the same millennials, now all of them categorically say they do not believe in the original moon landing. That was a big surprise to me.
Wow.
And here's the reason why. They're watching Netflix documentaries about Elon Musk and all these other guys and Bezos. And just there's a lot out there, but in particular Elon Musk. And they all go like, wait a minute. He's trying to do this, but 50 years ago, we had these cigar tubes and we threw some people up there in suits and they walked around and they bounced and Elon Musk can't get back there? What this makes? Technology has evolved. This is what they're saying. Look at the technology. And of course, they're right. The technology in your pocket is now 100-fold, maybe 1,000 times more powerful than the fly-by-wire stuff that were in the original rockets and the capsule and the lunar module. Yeah. And they're not bashful about it either. And it's not considered a kooky thing to say anymore. That's what I like about it. I'm like, yeah. And they understand what can be done with video. Totally. But climate change, all in.
Oh, yeah. They're all in on climate change.
Yeah.
They don't look around them. I mean, the thing about climate change is just Where is and by the way, they had. I'll look at one more climate. The climate activists in New York City. This is again the irony of all this is that the Democrats who have promoted this to an extreme, as opposed to Republicans who said no, this is bullcrap. The Democrats promote it, and they're the ones who get inundated with the protesters. So here's the climate activists in New York City protesting at Governor Cuomo's offices.
In New York City, a group of climate activists are on the second day of a 3-day hunger strike in front of Governor Andrew Cuomo's office ahead of this Thursday's permitting deadline for the proposed Williams Pipeline project, which would carry frack gas from Pennsylvania's shale fields under New York Harbor. Activists are urging Cuomo, who's called for New York's own Green New Deal, to halt the project, which they say will harm New York waters, public health, safety, democracy, and the climate.
Oh, democracy.
Wait, hold on.
What?
How does it harm democracy?
I don't know.
Play that end of this and listen carefully what they say it's going to harm.
I want to play the whole thing, actually, since it's only 27 seconds.
In New York City, a group of climate activists are on the second day of a 3-day hunger strike in front of Governor Andrew Cuomo's office ahead of this Thursday's permitting deadline for the proposed Williams Pipeline project, which would carry frack gas from Pennsylvania's shale fields under New York Harbor. Activists are urging Cuomo, who's called for New York's own Green New Deal, to halt the project, which they say will harm New York waters, public health, safety, democracy, and the climate.
Public health, New York water, safety,
democracy,
safety, the very roots, safety, the very roots of our democracy.
And by the way, this is one of the things I've noticed. Insane people do this too, by the way. But which is you keep adding on. I bitched about this on a couple of shows ago about people they have a good point to make. And they make the point, and then they start adding on to it. Instead of saying that I don't like it because of this, they say I don't like it because of this, and it's a valid dislike. But then they say, and then there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this.
Right.
They start adding on to it like an insane person does. They can't stop talking.
Democracy.
Yeah, so it's going to ruin democracy if you put a pipeline somehow in the harbor. What has that got to do with democracy?
If you don't donate to the No Agenda show, you will harm peace and, in fact, democracy itself.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh, yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
Well, let's see what we got here. We do have a few people to thank for show, what is this, 1138?
Yep.
Yeah. Dennis Koval is at the top. He's got a birthday coming up. Happy 33rd to him. 121 from North Tonawanda, New York. Clay Bacevice, I think. In Miami, Florida.
It's Bass Vice.
Bass Vice?
Yeah. Clay.
Is that the way he pronounces his name?
Yeah. If you look at... It says it right there. Because he's going to be a knight. I really enjoyed the Euronews coverage. John, why don't you write more about cars? Can you expound on your reasoning a bit? The show was phenomenal. I'll hate the day, but cheers to an exit strategy when you do find it.
95.95 from him out of Miami.
This donation will complete my knighthood with the help from Joe Salasur's donation on 1135. I'd prefer the title Sir Bass Vice, pronounced Bass Vice. 2 syllables, very simple. And I agree it's confusing because it's spelled Bacevice, which I think I said was Bacevice.
Yeah, it's an Italian looking name.
Yeah, it's a Bacevice.
Well, Bass Vice is
Bass
fine.
Vice is good. We're all in on the Bass Vice.
Christopher Charabaruk in Pickering, Ontario, Canada, $71.92. It's actually $100 Canadian.
Yes.
But Tom Miller, and he's going to need some more money. They need all the money they can get up there for the carbon tax. Tom Miller, $69.69. Sir Dwight the Knight in Burlington, Ontario, $67.89.
He said, hold on. On episode 1137, I asked for a Mother's Day call out for mine and my brother, Sir Hank Scorpion's mother. It got skipped. Oh, no. I would greatly appreciate it if she got her Mother's Day shout out, and also could she get some amazing jobs karma? Of course, we'll put that at the end as we always do. And a birthday shout out for Sir Hank Scorpio's smallest future human resource. Eleanor turns 1 tomorrow on the 17th of May, on the list as well. So
yes, and start recording her voice.
Yes. Start early.
Niel, Niel. Ide, Eyde, in St. Petersburg, Florida, 60. Another birthday of smoking hot wife.
You don't think that could be Neil?
It could be.
I would say Neil before Niall.
Well,
Neil.
Okay, well, Neil. Christopher Dector, 5678. Logan Isaac, 5510. Sir
Logan needs a de-douching.
You've been de-douched.
I think this is
to his mom.
Yeah, it's a belated. His mom, Karen Isaac. That was belated from leftover from Mother's Day.
Sir Psycho Mike Reed, 5510. Some karma for him. He's needed for his.
Riley Crossman from Berkeley Springs, who's been missing since May 8th. Oh, that's horrible. Of course.
Send out some. Definitely send out some karma at the end there. Syrup, 5150. These are our 5150 donors, and in memory of the 5150 situation, the date and the rest. Syrup, Peter Housen in Mooresville, New Jersey. Subode Peth, 5150. I'd be crazy not to donate. It's a pun. Good one.
Exactly, yes.
Sir Phenom in Appleton, Wisconsin. Brad Horowitz in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. Keep them coming. Michael Regas, like Vegas, 5150. Michael Doherty, 5150. Walter H. White.
That's a joke.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Walter White.
Is Adam nuts getting married again? Challenge to my fellow No Agenda producers to match. Adam is nuts. 5150 donation. Sign me, Walter H. White, NIH Cancer Lab Rat Deluxe.
Do you know who Walter White is? A fictional character?
The guy in Breaking Bad. Jeez.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
Sir Cuss Media. Matthews. The only good I didn't watch Breaking Bad except the first episodes, a couple episodes, and I said, I don't know. This looks like it's going to drag this out, and I thought much about it. But I did go out of my way to see the one with the moving head in the desert that was put on top of the turtle. I thought that was worth watching.
It's Breaking Bad. It's the iPad of TV shows.
So yeah, better than The Wire. Matthew Smith, 51. John Holler, Missoula, Montana, 50. These are all $50 donors. Chris Lewinsky, Sherwood Park, Alberta. Pate Snakes in Amsterdam, 50. Calvin Conkey in Surprise, Arizona. Is that right? And I wonder if is there a town need? I've been listening to Adam for years since his days podcasting out of the Netherlands. I guess I need a de-douching because I never gave until now. Love your deconstruction.
All right, here we go.
You've been de-douched.
Nathan Miller Foster, 50. By the way, somebody sent us a note asking for a de-douching. They've been donating all the time.
Nathan says, Happy Mother's Day to Linda Lee from your handsome and heroic son, Nathan Lee. May the wind under your wings bear you where the sun sails and the moon walks. I love you, Mom. Sorry, I'm a week late.
John Camp in Antlers, Oklahoma. Brandon Savoy in Port Orchard, Washington. Dame Patricia Worthington in Miami. Mark Johnson in Aurora, California. Jason Clegg in San Diego, California. Robert Weber in Lake Forest. Maxine Waters Gravel is back.
And with a question, please, John, please ask Adam. No, it should be the other way around. What is the proper title for a gender neutral item, i.e. a gravel, who has achieved donations in the amount of $1,000 or more? Because we have knights, we have dames. The gravel is gender neutral.
Well, this has to go to the
peerage
steering
committee
on this. This is a tough one.
Could it be
put us in a corner? We can't really make a decision just instantly.
How about a eunuch of the No Agenda Roundtable?
It sounds like an insult.
A jester? No.
No. Jesters are jesters.
Okay.
We'll think about it. We will give it serious thought. You're not up to 1,000 yet. Gravel.
But the fact that Maxine's Gravel is donating is just beautiful.
Yeah. Well, at least that's what you get. You can compliment anything. And last on our list is Keith Yarborough in Austin, Texas. Of all places, he'll be at the wedding like everybody else in the country.
And we have
because he was invited by our.
You're
pal.
getting salmon. Salmon. It's salmon for you.
SAMMON.
Salmon.
Anyway, we want to thank all these folks for being producers of show 1138. And don't forget, we do have another show coming up next week, and it will be, or the next Thursday, or our next Sunday show will be a show with 2 interviews. One, the Scaramouche interview. Mooch is, and also I've isolated Cliff Stoll.
Now, who is Cliff Stoll?
Cliff Stoll. Well, people should look him up on the Wikipedia. He's a very famous astronomer, physicist. He used to be on. I've known him for years. I've known him since Tech TV or ZD TV. Actually, before that, I think I even was on the site. I think on MSNBC, where I also worked there. And he used to give. I mentioned this on the show. He used to do the editorials. And so he'd come on and do an editorial, and his editorial always consisted of the same exact message.
Okay.
Get out from behind your computer. Go out and get some fresh air.
He was very influential.
It was every single time.
He was very influential for you, I presume.
What?
He was very influential to you.
Well, apparently not. But he's got other messages, and I heard him on something recently moaning and groaning about the educational system and how there shouldn't be computers in schools. And so I said, since he lives in Oakland, I know him. I said, hey, Cliff, can I come over there with some gear and we can record, some new material from you? Mm-hmm. And he obliged. It's very entertaining, very entertaining.
Oh, good. And you did this when? This past week?
I did last week.
Oh, cool.
And he also makes Klein bottles as a hobby.
What kind of bottles?
A Klein bottle is a bottle with one surface. You have to look it up to see what they are, but they only have one surface. It's like the thing you twist, and what's it called? I can't remember. People in this chat room know where you can take a piece of paper and turn it so it has one surface and you just keep going around and around.
Well, now
I know what it is.
I got it. Now, Klein bottle. How do you spell Klein?
Klein.
Klein bottle. Okay, we'll just see what it is.
Yeah, Mobius band.
Oh, okay.
It's a Mobius band bottle.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, is there any benefit to the Mobius band bottle?
Or the Mobius band bottle? None. Yeah, there's a benefit if you
make them
liquid in something, you can't get it out.
If you make them and you sell them, there's a benefit.
I guess.
No other observable benefit.
It's definitely a curiosity, that's for sure. And he makes a bunch of different ones.
So when you pour it basically goes back into the bottle. Yeah, well, this is smart stuff.
You can't really pour it out.
That's what we should.
The problem. You can't get it out.
I've got it. There's another exit strategy. Not quite sure how we.
Yeah, Klein bottle.
Klein bottles.
Yes. All right. Well, anyway, I want to thank these folks for, and we will have that show be.
So that'll air Sunday, but I'm sure you'll be hearing from us on the social meds. I'm sure John will be.
And you also get the newsletter as usual, and
yes. And John will be tweeting,
mostly complaining.
John will be live tweeting the wedding.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If I can find my phone, which reminds me, I got to look for my phone.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Thank you all very much. Also, those who came in under $50, we appreciate each and every single one of you. Just to reiterate, since we have a little extra time with a very low turnout today, we only mention and thank producers who come in $50 and above. That is for reasons of anonymity above all, but that doesn't mean that we don't really appreciate. In fact, it means we really appreciate people who are on the subscriptions, which are 1111s, 533s, and you could see them all at Dvorak.org/NA to get an idea. And we will sometimes read the notes. We can't when it's really busy, but today we could have read everything forwards and backwards. And then we, of course, always want to highlight the associate executive producers, which is $200 and above, and the executive producers, which is $300 and above for each individual episode. And they get pretty much free reign. Will do anything they want, but we try to have people keep it within reason just for brevity's purposes. And it's the value for value model. It's been working pretty well. This is the roller coaster ride we're used to. It's what podcasting's all about. It starts with a vow of poverty.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
And we're halfway through 16th of May, 2019. Here's your birthday list. Sir Dwight the Knight says happy birthday to Sir Hank Scorpio's daughter, Eleanor, who turns 1-year-old tomorrow. Dame Jennifer, we all know and love her, and she commemorates Sir Greg, the heavy metal historian's birthday. He would have been 43 on May 18th. Unfortunately, he was snatched from us way too early. And thank you, Dame Jennifer. Good to hear from you. Dennis Cobble turns 33 today. Neil Ide, happy birthday to his smoking hot wife, Amanda. And finally, Neil Sputterboom turns 21 today. Happy birthday from everybody here at the best podcast in the universe. Quick overview. Yes?
And add Eric DeShill, since we're not going to be able to wish him one on Sunday. His birthday's on
that's
Saturday.
right. It's Sunday. That's why he couldn't come to the wedding. Because it was his birthday. He didn't want to celebrate. He didn't want to be second fiddle to our wedding.
No, he didn't want to leave the kids.
I'm just kidding.
By himself.
Yeah. No salmon for you.
And he, like everyone else in the country, has been invited to this wedding.
And here's an overview of the meetups, No Agenda producers getting together. It's a great thing to do. Personal, in-person, human contact really complements the show. And people seem to enjoy doing it as noagendameetups.com continues to grow with more listings. A quick overview, May 18th, Cincinnati, Ohio. The 25th, Eastern North Carolina meetup. The 25th is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania as well. Then officially on noagendameetups.com after being mistaken for spam, the Tel Aviv, Israel meetup. That should be a good one. June 2nd, Sarasota, Florida. The 6th is in Seattle, Washington. June 7th, Toronto. The 8th, Oklahoma City, Copenhagen on the 15th of June. Then we move to July 4th, Seattle, interesting dates, choice. And July 13th, Atlanta. And I really mention these to let you know that there's something happening in your neck of the woods and also to promote noagendameetups.com. Please go and check that out. And I'm going to...
July the 4th in Seattle has a spectacular fireworks display at the Space Needle.
Oh. Can you grab your blade now?
They used to have, by the way, the Space Needle guys used to have this very famous Japanese fireworks guy do the displays. And they were all these screwy things you've never seen in your life. Then I guess the guy retired, so now it's just same old, same old. Here's my blade.
Oh, finally. Hey, Clay Bass Vice, step on up, sir. Time for you to join the No Agenda Roundtable of our dames and knights and gravels of all genders. Thank you for your support of the show, and you got some help along the way, and I'm very proud to pronounceate you Sir Bass Vice, a knight of the No Agenda Roundtable that gives you the entitlement to Hookers and Blow, Rent Boys and Chardonnay, single malt Scotch if you prefer, Horsehead, Pumpkin Ale, beer and blunts, Red Highs and Redheads and Ryes, Harlots and Haldol. We got beers and blunts. We got Rubenesque Women and Rosé, Geishas and Sake, vodka and vanilla, breast milk and pablum, ginger ale and gerbils, bongets and bourbon, sparkling cider and escorts, and the mutton and mead. It never fails to delight a real crowd pleaser. Mutton and mead. And you, Sir Bass Vice, can go to noagendanation.com/rings, and we'll get everything out to you as soon as possible. And remember to tweet a picture. Saw a couple of them the past couple of days. It's so nice. It's great promotion for us. And you join a very exclusive club. Not a lot of people compared to the entire audience.
No.
Let me see. Oh,
well, Oh, I wanted to mention, by the way, when we're talking about that climate thing going on at Cuomo's office, they're all sitting there on strike, bitching and moaning about climate change.
Yeah.
All bundled up. This climate change thing is killing me. All bundled up.
Let me see. There was a This is it's a California story, but it could easily happen in Austin. Finally, we found a good use an interesting use for these e-scooters that are all over the place.
This photo of Rosa Hernandez was taken Friday at a Mexican Mother's Day celebration in her neighborhood. Tonight, the same friends and family she was celebrating with gathered outside her home, then walked to where she was brutally attacked, in shock over her tragic death.
Santa Maria, Madre de Dios.
Hernandez was dropping off a gift at her relative's home on East 64th and Obispo Monday at 12:30 in the afternoon when she was assaulted by a man police say she did not know. Neighbors say a Bird scooter, an electric rideshare scooter like these found in neighborhoods throughout Southern California, was parked near where the attack happened. The suspect noticed it and used it to further assault Hernandez. The aftermath captured from Air 7 HD, too graphic to show.
That's right, man. It's now a deadly weapon.
What?
The Bird bike. The guy bludgeoned the lady with an electric scooter.
Oh, he used the scooter to bludgeon her.
Yes, he bludgeoned her with the scooter.
Oh, jeez.
This is now they're just weapons.
Where was this?
I think California somewhere.
Yikes.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to mention during the donation segment, we specifically said we don't want any gifts, and we on our
no blankets
or water, and on our
actually I would like some blankets from Peru
on our wedding website. We have a link so you can donate to the Ronald McDonald House, and I didn't know this, but I thought No Agenda producers were the ones that came up with interesting numerology for donation amounts. It turns out we've been trounced.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you know that Jewish tradition is to give money in multiples of 18?
Okay.
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. Apparently, this is I was like, wow, why do we get this odd number? It's very sweet that someone donated to the house, but why is it this number? And it's because it was a multiple of 18, which it's just supposed to be. Well, it's good luck for sure. But I didn't know this.
I'm going to add it to our donation schedule.
Lucky Jew donation?
Shape-shifting.
Here, one shape-shifting donation.
Yes, the shape-shifting. It could be either 18 or 36.
When giving charity...
It could be 72. Shape-shifting.
When giving charity, the number 18 has another significance. It expresses our prayer that the merit of the charity given stand in our good stead, that we be blessed with life and prosperity. It is a Jewish custom to give monetary gifts in increments of 18, symbolically blessing the recipient of the gift with a good long life. I had no idea.
Well,
this is fantastic.
It's now on the schedule.
It's the shape-shifting donation.
I never heard this either.
Oh, well.
And usually I'm clued into all things Jewish culture.
Yeah, me
by
too.
Horowitz.
Yeah. Well, you should ask him.
He's never mentioned this to me. I'm going to be very upset about this.
Why? Because Horowitz didn't clue you in?
Yes.
Okay.
I have this is kind of a compilation of like 3 clips.
Okay.
And just proving my point about Brexit.
All right.
Where the latest thing they're going to try to do to get a re-vote is to try to make
maybe
the
we should
first vote.
Let's restate.
Brexit, we've been predicting since day one that when they voted for it, the way it's always done is, especially with the EU people, is that they get a redo. Well, you can't possibly mean what you said.
A do-over.
Try it again.
A do-over.
And a do-over. And they'll do it again, the third time if necessary.
And we've seen this with the European Union, with Ireland,
France,
the Netherlands.
Netherlands, they've all done it.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't. What you didn't vote right. Let's vote again. It's been a little challenging for them to get to the vote again stage, but we're getting there.
They can't. If they have not managed to do it, even though we've both predicted that they're going to do it some way, shape, or form, and I've been very adamant about it. Now, the way to get to it now, because they haven't seemed to, Theresa May's just not going to do it, is that they're going to find some reason to exaggerate. And they're doing this, by the way. They're exaggerating some illegality that took place in the vote leave campaign.
Wait a minute.
Somebody spent some money that was too much.
It was £100,000 that they're all flipping out about.
Yeah, and they're hookers, something. Whatever they did something wrong, and now that invalidates everything.
Oh, yes.
Wait,
but I thought it was Russian trolls who had done that. I thought it was Cambridge
they
Analytica.
Gave up on the Russian troll thing because the British people aren't as stupid.
No,
as
wait a minute. It was Trump. I'm telling you, it was
Trump.
Orange man bad. I'm sure he was.
So here's some examples of what's going on in Parliament with Theresa having to respond to these a lot of Scots, of course, the troublemaking Scots. I do not understand why they just don't cut these guys loose. But there's a lot of people from the Scottish parties, and they're bitching and moaning about the illegality. We got to do a do-over, and here's my best. This is a current example.
Questions that surround the Leave campaigns, some of which amount to fraud on an industrial scale. Before she proceeds any further, why hasn't she set up a judge-led public inquiry with the power to summon evidence and witnesses to determine whether she is proceeding on the basis of a fraudulent campaign and a fraudulent result?
Can I say to the honourable gentleman, I think when people came to vote in the 2016 referendum, the British people knew what they were.
Well, did someone just retch? Did a reptile retch out?
I wondered about that myself, and it was never explained. But somebody's in the background either dying or
it sounds like
I have no idea, but it's a horrible sound.
It sounds like the reptile was, like coming out of itself or something.
Say to the honourable gentleman, I think when people came to vote in the 2016 referendum, the British people.
That's great. There's free content and they missed it.
Gentlemen, I think when people came to vote in the 2016 referendum, the British people knew what they were voting on. 17.4 million of them voted to leave the European Union, and we should respect that vote.
Delay Brexit until she has informed the House as to the status of the police and NCA investigations after Vote Leave and Leave.eu were found guilty of corrupt activities by the Electoral Commission.
I say to very simply to the honourable lady, as I think she's discussed the issue of delaying Brexit with me before. Can I just simply say to her, this Parliament gave the people of the United Kingdom the decision to choose whether to leave the European Union or to stay in. They chose to leave the European Union. I think for trust in politics, it's important that the government delivers on just that.
Speaker, people are losing trust in this government. The Transport Secretary, the International Trade Secretary, and now the Brexit Secretary were all members of the Vote Leave campaign committee. The Environment Secretary was the co-chair. They've been referred to the police by the Electoral Commission, having refused to cooperate with the Electoral Commission. Will the Prime Minister guarantee that her cabinet ministers will fully cooperate with the police investigation?
Prime Minister! It's very important in this country that politicians don't interfere with police investigations, and the police are allowed to do their investigation as well. But everyone is innocent, and innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
No. That's not true.
Yes, we have proof that it's not true anymore.
Yeah.
Now, that was Corbyn at the end there. I recognize his voice easily enough. But which is ironic because Corbyn's always actually wanted to leave the EU, but his party doesn't, so he's kind of towing the line. This is going to wind up with another election. There's just no doubt in my mind about it. This is the
wait a minute, another election or the people's vote.
What would be called the people's vote or another. It's not even an election. It's a referendum.
All right. Just to remind people, what Theresa May said is incorrect. She said that people are presumed innocent until proven guilty. That's just factually wrong.
People are innocent until alleged to be involved in some type of criminal activity.
No, that's
John Brennan said it straight.
John
the great John O. Brennan,
constitutional lawyer. Yeah. Well, it's they still got to get through the European elections now. And
yes, they're going to have.
Forget
it looks
that.
like the UKIP is going to do very well in this, or the Leave Brexit group.
Forget that, people. What's the status of the Eurovision Song Contest? Give me some deets. That's where are we at?
I just saw a bunch of big fat people singing, and also some people in bird costumes. And I don't even know what this is. More like a joke of a competition.
And we were talking. Well, we talk about it every year, but I explained as I do every year that it has nothing to do with Europe. It's the Eurovision Broadcast Union. Anyone can join it. And the news came out. I think it was just yesterday. The long-rumored North American version of the annual European mega competition is officially being developed, with an estimated launch in 2021.
Yeah, we have a year. We have next year to ourselves.
Yeah, well, it'll be all to ourselves, and you and I, no matter where we are or what we're doing, we're going to we commit to doing a color commentary over whatever live stream of any song contest.
Yeah,
certainly the United States. What are they going to do? Do it by states? And have the states vote, kind of the way, why don't they just have the U.S. join into the Eurovision broadcast?
No, that's what they're doing. Is the latter. They're not going to have a states. They're going to just.
That's not what.
That's not Eurovision feed.
That's not what the.
That's what the Hollywood Reporter implied.
No, I think they implied that there's going to be an American version.
I think what they meant by that is. Well,
no, the announcement.
The article.
Here it is. The announcement. The announcement of the U.S. version.
It was hard for me to read as I was rolling my eyes. It's very difficult to find what line you were reading.
Okay. The long-rumored North American version of the annual European mega competition event is officially being developed as the American Song Contest for the U.S. market. This is. Should I tell you something? Fail.
Oh, that's a total fail.
Fail.
We already have The Voice.
Fail. Yes, fail.
We have American Idol. We have The Voice. We have you. Do you think you got talent? How many of these things do we need? There's already too many. I'm sick of them. Okay, we get the point. A lot of people can sing well, and we can't. Fine.
Oh boy. All right, let's just clear a few things up. That's what people like to hear from us. You've probably seen or heard reports of, but, here's how it goes. But according to the Mueller report, the Russians hacked 2 counties in Florida. And we need to pull this apart again so everyone understands what's going on. Here's another version of this empty report.
It was a hot topic during Florida's U.S. Senate race last year, and it's been a hot topic nationally for at least 2 years.
Yeah, now there's confirmation that at least 2 Florida counties were hacked during the election of 2016. Senator Bill Nelson claimed it last summer during his campaign.
And that, thank you for pointing that out. It's very important that when you hear the word hacked, you probably immediately see cyber guys roaming around, hacking through everything, getting all the important data. But this was actually based on a phishing trick. So, someone clicked on a link and then gave their email and password. And yes, someone got into the network.
In the election of 2016. Senator Bill Nelson claimed it last summer during his campaign for re-election. He said Florida had been hacked during the 2016 election cycle. Governor Rick Scott said, essentially, prove it. Well, now there's proof revealed with a single sentence in the Mueller report. It says the FBI suspected Russian military intelligence hackers were able to gain access to the network of at least one Florida county government through a spear phishing campaign.
And, of course, they stop there. The rest of the paragraph includes all the information in the Mueller report that will help you understand that they were nowhere near the actual voting systems. They accessed a publicly accessible database of voter registration. Does not really constitute a huge security hack.
2 Florida counties experienced intrusion into the supervisor of election networks. There was no manipulation or anything.
Governor Ron DeSantis met with the FBI in Tallahassee and announced that 2 counties were hacked. However, he won't reveal which counties, and he says the hack didn't change any results.
Not
and they say it right in the report.
Allowed to name the counties. I signed a disclosure agreement. I think they think that if we name the counties, then that may reveal.
What's a disclosure agreement?
that he promised to say something.
What's a disclosure agreement?
That's a good catch.
Not allowed to name the counties. I signed a disclosure agreement.
Hey, bro, what did you really sign? What did you sign?
I think they think that if we name the counties, then that may reveal information to the perpetrators that we know kind of what they did.
Well, the governor says both counties were notified about the hack prior to the 2016
Hold
election.
on a second. Stop this clip. What the hell's he talking about? If you do what, they're going to know something. They know something now. It's a news story.
Well,
what is he talking about?
So what he's saying is he signed a apparently disclosure document, although most people would sign a non-disclosure, to not mention the counties, because if he gave that information, then the perpetrators, read Russians, would know that they had been successful and something.
Successful at what?
I think a new rule needs to be constituted. Just like the word glitch is unacceptable in professional news reporting, the term hack is also, in my mind, no longer acceptable. You can say their network was penetrated. You can say inappropriate access to. Give us a little bit of the story, not just 2 counties were hacked. That's meaningless. And a time traveler from the past would be very confused.
Now, the governor says both counties were notified about the hack prior to the 2016 election and worked with the FBI to eliminate the threat.
Oh, so nothing happened during the election. Nothing happened during the election.
DeSantis also says the FBI praised Florida for being ahead of other states in terms of cyber security.
Ugh. So it's just a rehash. But I wanted to say it because the way it's brought is just, and this was actually pretty complete. I liked how they actually gave you the information at the end of the story that this was before the election took place.
If you listen to congresswomen like Escobar going on and on about how the election was not only hacked by the Russians, but the results were changed so Trump could win.
Yeah, that's a total lie.
Well, why are they saying it? It can't be a lie if they're Congress people saying it.
No. Oh, okay. We shouldn't do the mocking thing. We're not good at it.
You're right. I'm sorry I did that.
We're not good at it.
Sarcastic.
Yes.
And nobody gets it.
No. I don't know how I missed this hearing. This is the Senate Judiciary Committee. We know that there's other we're investigating the investigators. That's what we're doing. And we have this new guy that Barr appointed, and he's what is he? He's a U.S. attorney, and he seems like he's a serious guy. We know nothing about him. But there was a conversation between the investigator general for the intelligence community. His name is Horowitz, and he's been doing his own investigation of the investigators, but specifically the FBI. And I don't know how I missed this, but this is they asked for the page-struck text messages, all the text messages. And they got what they got. But it turns out the FBI, not only did they not deliver all the messages, there were, I think, 3 other attempts that the inspector general made and retrieved more messages than the FBI even said was even possible. It was just a great exchange, and I think it explains a lot about the cover-up that's going on.
Mr. Horowitz, let's talk about these text messages for a minute. Was it easy for you to get them?
No, it was, the initial batch was easy. They were with the FBI, and we requested them. The latter part of this over the last 6 months or so was challenging.
Challenging. When you say challenging, tell me what you mean by that.
So when they were produced by the FBI, it turned out that there was a period during which, about 4 to 6 months, I don't remember the exact time, where there were no text messages produced to us. It turned out there was a flaw in their collection software, or a failure in their collection software. We then went out and seized and obtained their 2 phones, voluntarily, I shouldn't say seized, obtained their phones from the FBI. These are now FBI devices we're talking about. And our cyber forensic team actually undertook a series of steps to seek to exploit, to extract the missing text messages from the phones. We first used our own tools to do that. That was step 1. We then went to a contractor that we use, a vendor that we use, to see whether there were additional tools.
Israel, no thanks.
They provided us with some additional tools, so we did a second extraction and gained more text messages. We then went to the Department of Defense and asked them if they had additional tools that those first 2 steps didn't use. They said they did, and they gave us those tools, and we used that and extracted more text messages. We then went to the FBI and said, okay, here are the steps we've taken. Do we miss anything? Would you do anything differently? They said they wouldn't. We then did a quality control check, as you're supposed to do, again, following the rules, our forensic examiners, and they discovered in that last search, which occurred last month in May, that the phone had a database on it that was actually also doing a collection of text messages.
Now, my ears perked up when I heard this. Like, there's a database that collects text messages inside the phone. We know that these were, I believe these were Android. We don't know, I guess. I thought it was Galaxy. I thought they were Android devices. And then he clarifies it with this next bit.
They extracted those messages from the phone and found the second part of the August 8th text, no, we'll stop it. That was found in early May because of that 4th effort to extract information from the phones. It turned out that the FBI wasn't aware that that database on there, which was supposed to be an operating function, was actually collecting data.
See, I think this is a part of some nastiness that Google already does. And this was maybe not supposed to come out in public forum, that there's some operating system function that collects your text messages in a special little database.
Well, this is distressing to people who use these phones a lot and maybe want to keep something a secret.
That database on there, which was supposed to be an operating function, was actually collecting data.
They weren't aware of that and didn't give it to you, but had they gone through the same steps you had gone through, they might have found it.
Correct.
Does that cause you to have any lack of confidence about whether or not you have all the evidence you need, all the evidence you've requested?
Clearly, as a result of that effort, and we're going to issue a separate report about the technological efforts we undertook there, and I'll be careful on how I describe them because I'm also a lawyer, not a cyber expert. But the concern is we now believe that not only are we unsure whether we have 100% collection in the period for which there was this blackout, 4 to 6 months, but it's now clear to us that even when the software at the FBI was collecting text messages, because the August 8th period was within the collection period, we had the incoming page to Strzok text. We didn't have the response. It's now clear to us that even outside this blackout period, we're not convinced that the FBI was collecting, for obvious reasons, 100% of the text.
Yeah, I think the FBI was covering up. That's what it sounds like to me.
That's what it sounds like.
4 different attempts, and they got more than
Every
the FBI
time they got
gave
to a
them.
new phase, they got more stuff.
Yeah. Then I have our
juicy stuff in there.
I have our one Joe DeGenova clip for every episode. We got to have.
Yeah, apparently
well, he's like the leader. He's like the leader of they're all going down. And it's fun to follow. I mean, he does have an actual record. You know, he was a U.S. attorney. He's not a schlub. But, you know, he's just more entertaining now. And so I still want to. I think the fall guys for anything that comes out will still be Strzok and Page. They seem like the obvious targets. They're popular, you know, as in everyone knows about them, knows their names. They're lovebirds. There's so many things that are perfect to take them down. But DeGenova stays on this trip that is going to be Brennan. And here he is, short.
James Comey, Brennan, and Clapper have said to themselves, which one of us is going to pay the Barr bill? the Barr bill is coming due, and Durham's appointment means that the already occurred meetings between the Attorney General, the CIA Director, and the Director of National Intelligence have now focused on a laser that the core of this conspiracy began with John Brennan and ends with John Brennan in London and D.C. and the Democratic National Committee. This is very serious business, and for the first time, I now believe that some of these guys are going to go to prison.
Wow.
Wow. Did you hear?
Wow, what an optimist.
Did you hear Ingraham at the end there?
Yeah.
Let me get her. Wow.
Some of these guys are going to go to prison.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. Wow. Sound like this Marge Simpson.
Homer. I have a couple of short clips.
Yeah, real short, because we got to go, man. We're over time.
Yeah, we got time.
We're long. Okay. Yeah, this is not fair. We get low donations, and people get more show.
Yeah, make them suffer.
Okay.
So we'll go with this. Now, I got this. There's a big fuss in the liberal community about Alabama and their abortion law, what they just passed. And apparently the governor, a woman, signed it into law. And it means if you get an abortion in Alabama, you're subject to 99 years in prison.
Okay, stop. Can I just give some? Do you have a background clip, or can I just give the actual?
No, I don't want back. You can give the background if you want.
Because I read the bill. And I want to thank a number of No Agenda producers who identify as female, who have given me very detailed information as to why there are so many unintended pregnancies, which is the entire initial reason for an abortion industry. The bill, and this is happening in at least half of the 50 United States, and I think it's some chicken shit think tank who's behind it, like a ALEC or something like that. It's like, we're going to get this to the Supreme Court. We're going to challenge Roe v. Wade. So we come up with these crazy bills which say the minute you basically find out you're pregnant, which you would find out for sure when you have a heartbeat, and the minute you do an audiogram or a sonogram and there's a heartbeat detected, after that point, abortion is no longer legal, and it was signed into law. And the doctors are the ones that could be thrown in jail. It specifically states that the woman can never be prosecuted for doing this, but the doctors.
Okay, well, that's good. I said that's nice.
Well, that's nice. There was one other thing. Well, they do have exceptions, but this is only about, because of course
it's a bullcrap.
It's contested. It's immediately going to the courts, which means abortion will remain status quo. And it's just I don't know who it is, and
I
they're
agree with you, but
trying to get it to the Supreme Court.
Clips, actually. I have after that premise, you can imagine that people are getting bent out of shape. And so this is a mid report. This is the middle of Goodman's report, and this is a little peculiarity that I caught and I wanted to play.
I don't know what clip.
May Goodman mid-report on Alabama abortion law peculiarity.
The law does not make exceptions for rape or incest. The only exception lawmakers voted for is cases in which the pregnant person's health is at serious risk.
Now, what do you think I saw in there that was weird?
Can I listen to it again?
Sure.
The law does not make exceptions for rape or incest. The only exception lawmakers voted for is cases in which the pregnant person's health is at serious risk.
Yes, the pregnant person's health.
Exactly.
Yes, only if you identify as female.
So why wasn't the pregnant woman or the pregnant girl or the pregnant woman or girl?
You know the answer is political
You're not
correctness.
If you're a guy and there's sex, nobody else is going to get pregnant except a woman. So why is it person? This is virtue signaling language.
Yeah, it is. It is.
This is the same thing where I told this whole story. I can tell it again. A friend of mine who worked at Boeing was writing for a PC World magazine. And he wrote, he said, and then the representative of the company said, blah, blah, blah. And the female copy editor calls him and says, you can't use this language. This is sexist. She said, you should use the word spokesperson. And he says the word representative is not sexist. It's got nothing to do with it. It's not sexist. It's just a good general term. Representative, same thing as spokesperson. Yeah. No, you don't understand. Spokesperson makes it clear that you know. So that was an early example from the 1980s of virtue signaling using language. And so I thought I was offended by it personally. I find it offensive to call a woman in general, a pregnant woman, a person when she's a woman. Mm-hmm. If she's a woman, she's a woman. She's not a person. Okay, onward. Right after that report, she threw this little dig thing in there, which I thought was kind of funny, and then she's just like wrote it off because men are bad. Mm-hmm. Play this clip. This is the following clip that came right after this. Vasectomy law.
Democratic State Senator Vivian Figueres, one of 4 women serving in the chamber, introduced an amendment that wowould criminalize vasectomies, arguing there are no laws regulating men's bodies. It was defeated.
I'm a person with a penis.
She does use the word men instead of person.
Of course.
It should have been.
Yeah, I think it was something funny about Alyssa Milano. She had tweeted about the sex strike. It's like it was, I don't know, but anyway, some people got all bent out of shape because, a woman can have a penis too.
Oh, please.
Yeah. If you tried to write this back in the day when Orwell was writing and Huxley, and you took it to a publisher, you'd be like, "That's too crazy, man. That's
too nuts."
I mean, the Huxley guys and the 1984 book, that hits the mark. But what you're saying, that could never happen. It's just crazy. It won't go down like that. But yet here we are, and so just again, to reiterate that this is clearly meant to get something to the Supreme Court. I think it's poorly thought out. I personally think it's very offensive. I'm pro-life, but choice is incredibly important for women. And pro-life in the respect that if we do kill people.
And you know what gets me? It should be discussed mostly by women. Why are men always talking about it?
Yeah, well, because I don't know, because men are making rules. I don't know. I'm pro-life, but I'm all for killing people as long as we do it on TV. Capital punishment, everything. But honestly, and I appreciated that we had so many producers who identify as women email me about how easy it is to get pregnant by accident and cost. And there's a lot of validity to that. And, you and I don't talk about it. It's also, the only recourse we have is vasectomy, the only way that we can participate in the process.
And then you look like an old lesbian after a few years. And I should mention that vasectomies began, if you look into the history of vasectomies, they began as an alternative to castration.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, what happened was they used to give castrations to violent prisoners back in the 1800s. And it turned out that a lot of these guys were violent and they had their balls cut off and they went back and killed the doctor. They were pissed off. So some guy, and his name is, I don't have it at the top of my head because I didn't intend on talking about it, but some guy decided that he could do a virtual castration and it became the vasectomy. And the guy still has his balls and he's not going to come back and shoot you. And so that was that. And that's where vasectomies began. So it's one of the reasons I'm somewhat offended by vasectomies, because it's voluntary castration. Doesn't seem like something you'd want to do.
Right. But as a typical old white dude, you've now taken the conversation to yourself and your penis instead of where the conversation belongs.
Well, at least, well, I had to get it off my chest.
Yes, so to speak. So I want to make sure I'm clear. I am pro. I don't want any children killed. I wish there was no abortions. But and so in that regard, I'm totally pro-life. But a woman has to have the ability to remove something she doesn't want that was not intended. It's insane. It's insane for these people to come up with these asshole laws. It pisses me off.
Well, apparently it does, and I love your virtue signaling. I'm sure you.
I'm not virtue signaling because I also said I'm pro killing people.
Which is double virtue signaling.
I'm straddling.
You're signaling to both sides of the argument.
It has to be televised. That was put it on television, and then people will understand what we're really talking about. This death row, abortion clinics, all of it, war. Show it. We only see the fake versions of it.
I think I can push these off till next Thursday.
Well, we need to end on a happier note than this.
Oh, okay. Well, here's the one I don't know how happy this note is. A 59-second clip because there's a piece of information in here that another thing that irked me. Let's play the trade war.
Our Hallie Jackson was in the Oval Office today to get the president's reaction to the escalating trade war.
Today, the moment the market's been dreading, China's clapback at the U.S. as it slaps retaliatory tariffs on products made in the U.S.
Wait a minute. Is this NBC, CNBC? What is this?
This is NBC.
She's using the term clapback?
That's what I don't know what that even means.
Clapback is what Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez does on Twitter. So when you have a snappy retort and you slap someone down, that's called a clapback.
I did not know this.
So now, bet.
Now it's on the nightly news with Lester Holt.
That's right.
The market's been dreading China's clapback at the U.S. as it slaps retaliatory tariffs on products made in the U.S. starting 18 days from now. Can you guarantee a trade deal with China by June 1st?
We're in a great position right now, no matter what we do. Yeah, I think China wants to have it.
But talks have stalled as the president bets he can get Beijing to blink first.
We've been taken advantage of on all of our trade deals, practically. This is a very positive step.
The tit for tat could cost many Americans more for things like luggage, electronics, and toiletries. It's already frustrating farmers trying to sell their crops to China, like the Hartmans. Alexis hopes to be the 6th generation to take over her family's Illinois farm, which will only survive if prices stop dropping and China starts buying.
Well, now that's interesting.
Wait a minute. She says this is affecting the American public because of the price of luggage?
Oh, no. NBC, because you got this clip from NBC. I got a clip from NBC, which took this even beyond luggage.
Here at the checkout counter, you'll feel the bite, even on your daily bread.
You can't escape the tariffs on anything you buy.
How does that make you feel?
A little nervous.
We'll have to sacrifice a little bit to be better in the end.
For or against them, businesses nationwide seeking to preserve the bottom line without scaring away clientele.
We've heard increases as high as 15, maybe 20% coming soon.
These tariffs could soon hit your pocketbooks on a wide variety of items. In fact, each American family can expect to pay an extra $767 a year on items used every single day. From appliances like air conditioners, vacuums, and stoves, to beds, pillows, even baby cribs. Clothing and accessories will also cost more, along with toiletries including shampoo, toilet paper, and makeup.
Woohoo!
So those hunting for a new AC...
Your mom was right! Your mom was right! The Chinese and the toilet paper.
Even baby cribs. Clothing and accessories will also cost more, along with toiletries including shampoo, toilet paper, and makeup. So those hunting for a new AC this summer?
My advice now is come in soon.
I don't necessarily think that you can stock up on things like shampoo and for months and months, but what you can do is be very...
coming from China. What shampoo are you using that comes from China? Why would you use it? And what is the big deal about paying more for luggage? When's the last time you bought luggage? This is bull crap.
It's NBC.
Oh, you're going to pay more for luggage.
Stock up on
and they always say luggage. What is the deal with luggage?
Well, I don't know.
People are buying it. Oh, God, let's get in line and stand in line for luggage at the Apple store. The new iLuggage is coming out. Give me a break.
I don't necessarily think that you can stock up on things like shampoo and for months and months, but what you can do is be very strategic about large items that you're buying. There actually could be a huge price differential between buying something that was maybe made in Korea versus China.
And while drugs and medical devices are exempt from tariffs, the American Hospital Association says hospital expenses could spike as much as $160 million a year, which could ultimately get passed down to patients. And with no progress in sight, the higher price tags may feel like a bitter pill to swallow.
That was good.
It's unbelievable.
And with that, we come to the end of episode 1138 of the No Agenda Show. It's a podcast that we make together here. And that's not just John and I. That's the whole back office, families, and all producers across Gitmo Nation in our value for value model. And we hope we can see more value coming back for what we put into it. Long show today. I'm getting married on Sunday.
Yeah, you're getting married on Sunday. Everyone congratulates you.
Yes. Very excited about that. So John and I will have a pre-recorded show with some interviews, which we discussed earlier. That'll be airing on Sunday. And, of course, we'll be back live on Thursday, the other Sunday of the week. And coming to you from the frontier of Austin, Texas, the last time as an unhitched man. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where it's still raining. In the middle of May, I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Sunday with our special interview show, and special thanks to Jesse Coy Nelson, Billy Bones, and Sir Seat Sitter for our end-of-show mixers. After this show on the No Agenda stream, That Larry Show 186. Adios, mofos! And such.
Donate to a No Agenda. They give ushers week after week. Donate to a No Agenda. It's a show that's really unique. Donate to a No Agenda. Listen to John and Adam speak. Donate to a No Agenda. Science is turning into a clique.
People are crazy. They can't tell what's going on. They don't want to ask the right questions, so they ask wrong questions and therefore get crazy answers. That's true. Friends, we have enough humans on the planet. We don't need any more humans. It is not okay for women to have babies.
It's not okay to have kids. The time's come to get rid of all the sheeple. There's too many people. There's 7.5 billion of us. That's 7 billion too much. Abortion is a necessity. That's what the plants have told to me. The tree in my yard said most of us need to be dead. That's why we need 5G, fluoride and vaccines.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Need children. If you find yourself pregnant, there are options and you can have an abortion. No babies. Cut off the baby factories. We have 7.5 billion with a B humans on the planet. That's too much. The actual ideal amount seems to be under 1 billion. Under 1 billion. We have 7.5 billion. No babies. Women who have babies and stay home to raise them should not be viewed as doing a good thing. That's not a good thing. It's completely not what the situation calls for at all.
Now the grass is kind of angry at us, though.
No, you look like an idiot.
Oh, no. I thought I was doing the cooler thing.
No, you look like an idiot.
Let's try this.
Modern Democrat.
Mic check. Or mic check. We have a saying in the Netherlands. Dit wat je zegt bij jezelf met je kop door de helft. You accuse others that of what you are guilty of. Boom.
Yeah.
Mic check. Wat je zegt bij jezelf met je kop door de helft.
Yeah.
We have a saying in the Netherlands. Or mic check. Wat je zegt bij jezelf met je kop door de helft. You accuse others that of what you are guilty of. Boom. Yeah. Mic check. Wat je zegt bij jezelf met je kop door de helft. Lekker ding.
Like you and Bane's Elf Magic Open Older Help Legolas grammar.
Nailed it.
Politicians. Everybody complains about politicians. Everybody says they suck.
Biden likes to hug a lot and have a drink to relax. Yank's big kick is PowerPoints and even value-added tax. Buddha judges openly gay, but Karger beat him to that punch. Klobuchar loves fresh green salad. She ate one with a comb for lunch.
They now have more characters in the Democratic Party than Game of Thrones, but Joe Biden is a frontrunner.
But just because it's the 2020 race doesn't mean there should be 2020 Democrats running.
Warren is a Harvard grad who claims she was a minority. Harris supports reparations, but her grandma was pro-slavery. Gilla Brand played beer pong, doing it with water instead. Well, there's actually a Republican. What got into that dude's head?
So just from a standpoint of being a casting director, which is what we are, we're going to have to watch some douchebag play the role of leader of the free world for the next 4 years. Pick the guy that's cool and fun to watch.
O'Rourke often flaps his hands. When he was younger, he liked to hack. Moulton is an ex-Marine, did 4 tours over in Iraq. Nessam was a football player. He was quite a sensation. Castro advocates lesser penalties on illegal immigration.
Reparations, the Green New Deal, gun confiscation, that's pure leftism.
Let me get this straight. One of the top Democratic candidates is a 40-year-old unemployed guy living out of a van?
Hickenlooper does wacky things like take his mom to see Deep Throat. Sanders is a socialist who would let folks in prison vote. Bennett says he's a fiscal hawk, but he was in the Gang of 8. Gabbard opposes global wars. I think that is really great.
This is the best we can do, folks. This is what we have to offer. It's what our system produces. Garbage in, garbage out.
Swalwell wants more gun control, and he supports the Green New Deal. Gravel has a better point. The Patriot Act should be repealed. Williamson writes New Age books, and she's a woman's advocate. Ryan worries about socialism, says it's better to be moderate.
If you needed a leader, then none of them are qualified because they're all fucking retarded.
Can you name a Democratic candidate besides Joe Biden?
I'm sorry, I'm not really good with that.
Delaney worries about global warming, wants a federal carbon tax. Inslee says his plan is bolder, but he lets Seattle turn to crap. Booker is obsessed with guns, even wants a national registry. Clinton says she ain't running, but she still wants the presidency.
Well, I don't know why that's funny. I mean, did you have any in-person briefings? I don't find it funny at all. I'm sorry, a little note of levity at 7:15.
Jesse, dear, I can't believe you actually did this.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
Your brains must be leaking out of your ears.
And when the farmer heard he was a Republican, his jaw dropped and he said, "Wait right here till I go get more."
The best podcast in the universe.
Adios, mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA